Hi, welcome to Montana State of Mind with me, Montana, a channel where we recap historical romances of yesteryear as well as horror and sci-fi and pretty much anything pre-2000s. And I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, just those old little paperback novels that you see in the drugstores and you're just like, those must be hot garbage. And if you watch this channel, you know that that is completely untrue. It feels like it has been forever since I have made a video because it kind of has been a little off kilter with the weather and some family stuff going on. But if you're on my Patreon, you've had me every week. Just a real quick Patreon thing. I know a lot of people, we all subscribe to podcasts and content creators and they're always doing the Patreons. I get it. But just real off the cuff, I have a $3 level where we go over the steamy sex scenes in these novels. I have a $5 level where you do steamy scenes, as well as a movie recap. Because last month we did Carrie, because it kind of tied in with the 80's Persephone story, and we had a great time recapping Carrie. If you want to hear me scream dirty pillows for $5, it's a good time. But I also made a $7 level because I want to do steamy scenes. I want to do a movie recap. And I also want to do Sunday stories. And now, a few Sundays ago, I released one about an Elvis bust for free, just so y'all knew what I was kind of talking about. But Sunday stories, I get so many magazines and newspapers and all kinds of anthologies, and they have such good stories, and I'm a journalist at heart, so I want to promote good journalism, and so I just go over really good articles that I find and recap those. And I think we had a really good time with the Elvis bust. But anyways, for $7, you kind of get something every week from me. What can I say? I'm cheap. But enough of Patreon matters. This month, y'all, we read Time Kept Promises by Connie O'Day Flannery. And we will get into the cover art and Constance here in a second. If you're new, we like to go over every inch of these novels. But this book, at the end of it, okay, if y'all are millennials, y'all know SpongeBob when he like cries and like the tears come out and he soaks them back up and then he cries again. That was me at the end of this novel. I was reading it in bed and I just put my head in my pillow and was just like, like it was just like that. I was sobbing. This is an amazing novel. Like, we were really hitting it out the park with some good ones lately. I don't think, have we had a bad one this year so far? What was January's? I already forgot what January's was. But I know Indigo was February, and then we had Dazzling Brightness in this one. Really knocking it out. These have all been really good books. And this one, though, has been my favorite. I know, you're just like, how do you top Dazzling Brightness? Because that was a really good one. How do you top Indigo? That was a Disney movie. This one, I'm not exaggerating. I've never read a time travel novel. And maybe y'all have, but just me personally, I've never read a time travel novel that did this. This is insanity. The twists and turns. I literally was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Until like the second to last chapter, I was like, I don't know. But it's so much. Y'all, I'm going to go ahead and spoil this real quick. Not a sex scene in this novel. There's one, and it's a very fade to black. So for the Patreon members who do steamy scenes, we're going to go back and do Desert Captive. We're going to do the sex scenes of Desert Captive. Because this one just didn't have enough. I'll read you, like I'll do the one that they have just because. But if there's not a sexy scene in a novel, we'll just go back and do some of the ones we didn't do. Not a sex scene in this novel. It is jam-packed. When I tell you all of this, not a dull chapter, not a moment of like, this is filler, jam-packed. I highly, highly, highly recommend finding this novel because I plan on, in August on my second year anniversary, I'm going to sell some of these because I just don't like clutter. But I do want to keep some. This one I'm definitely keeping. This was amazing. I highly recommend finding Time Kept Promises and reading it because the dialogue and everything. This, again, why aren't these movies? Everybody wants to redo Snow White and like Beauty and the Beast. Y'all need to get some IPs on this, on these little novels and make these. I'm telling y'all, I have trademarked, don't you dare do it. Netflix, don't you dare do it without me. Hulu, mark my words. Don't you steal my idea. But truly, and we'll get to who the actors and actresses I want to play in this one are. But yes. So let's go ahead, honestly, and just kind of get into it. If I sound a little off, allergies. Y'all all know and love allergies, okay? So if I sound a little wonky, I hope everybody is safe from the storms. That's what's kind of made this late, is we had all those tornadoes and rain, and it knocks my internet out every year. Every year. It's rural living, you know? Before we get into this, because it's going to be a roller coaster. Once we get started, we cannot stop. I want to go ahead, and I'm going to hold y'all when I say this. The last chapter, you're going to be crying. But hold on, because there are 2 epilogues. Because we got to go back and we got to go forward. Because this is time travel. So I know you're going to be crying at that last chapter. But you got to hold on, because we've got 2. And we have a quote on the last page. Y'all are going to be so emotionally exhausted from this novel. And I know you're like, Montana, get to the fucking novel. Y'all are going to be so emotionally exhausted. And then Constance is going to, when you're tired and you're laying there exhausted, she's going to give you one little last kiss on the forehead. Because there's a last quote on the last page that, again, I was just SpongeBob crying into a mug, drinking the mug, recrying back into the mug. Like, it was insanity. But let's get into this cover, okay? This is a beautiful cover. It's why I bought it. I thought it was an absolutely beautiful cover. It is, okay, for the audio listeners, okay, Montana. The foremost background, layer 1 on Photoshop, is going to be blue night, like it's a blue night with some green indigo kind of trees, and there's going to be 3 gray horses running to the left and right. 3 gray horses. And I'm just now realizing why the horses are important to this novel. God, I'm an idiot. Because I'm like, why are there horses? No shit. We'll get to why. Anyways, lots of little gray horses running in the background. And there's a full moon in the top right. And that's going to be your layer 1. And now on top of that, we're going to have our couple. And they are, okay, let's get to Sean here. Sean in the novel is going to be a 2nd generation Irish man. I hate to say it, but they really don't give these men a lot of like differentiation, because he looks a lot like Desert Captive. He looks a lot like a lot of others we've seen. But anyway, Sean, he's olive skin, golden skin, darker, not a white Irish man, one of the darker ones. But he is a white guy probably. And he has got gorgeous, thick black hair, big black eyebrows, very hairy man, except for his chest, not a hair on his chest. We never see hair on the chest. Again, golden skin. He's wearing one of those Pride and Prejudice Shakespearean white shirts. It is unbuttoned and it is coming down to his elbows. Okay. And he's wearing black little riding breeches. And he is firmly, and I mean firmly, grasping little Chris here. I mean, his hand on her thigh is flexed as if they're in a tornado and he needs to hold on. You see every vein in his arm flexed, and Jesus. I mean, a nurse probably salivates looking at this, just like, I could get a needle into all of those. Now, Chris is going to be our heroine. She looks more Irish than he does, stereotypically, I mean. But she is a creamy white skin, much like myself. And she's got strawberry blonde hair. Gorgeous strawberry blonde hair. It's layered, shoulder length, whipping all around her. It's truly, she's a beautiful woman. She's got a little hint of blue eyeshadow, though, because, of course, this was made in, like, I think the 90s or 80s. She's got a little hint of blue eyeshadow there. And you're just kind of like, it ties in with the blue background behind her. So it's cute, but it's just like, not a lot of redheads. Strawberry blondes need to be wearing blue eyeshadow. What do I know about makeup? Now, what she's wearing is very interesting. Okay, how do I describe this? It's a two-piece. It's a two-piece, so separate top and bottom, but same pattern. So it's a matching set. And the fabric is going to be, what would you call that? A very light violet. I don't know colors. I'm sure artists are sitting here saying the colors exactly. Very, it's pink. It's not violet. What color pink would that be? What is a pink that turns into violet? Not magenta, but close. It could be magenta, like the dog from Blue's Clues. Like, imagine that. And where magenta spots are, there's tiny little violet flowers. And it is, the top is off her shoulders. You know, she's kind of pulling it off softly with her left hand, while her right hand is wrapped around Sean's neck. And then the skirt is the same material. Again, this magenta with little purple flowers. Very cute. Again, it's neither 80s nor 1800s. So I guess that's good, as it's not too into one time. She kind of looks timeless, if you will. Timeless. And she's got her leg, like I said, wrapped around his waist. He's got that flexed hand, just grabbing that whole thigh. Like her whole thigh fits in his hand, excuse me. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. But God love her. She's a tiny little thing. And again, they are just, he's holding her. She's got her hand around his neck. She's pulling the shoulder off of it. And the horses are running around her. It's like Shakira in Whenever, Whatever. You know, just a lot of horses running behind them. And just real off the cuff, there's beautiful violet, pink, orange roses kind of around them. Very faded. And Time Kept Promises is in this rose gold foil. Gorgeous, very eye-catching. And around the border, we have silver ivy leaves. It's, again, just for a second, audio listeners, look. Stop driving and look. I'm kidding. Let's get into fictional author lore. Disclaimer, this is completely made up to the new listeners. I don't know shit about these authors. Some are alive, some are dead. I don't look up anything about them because we like to literally just look at the photo and just make up stuff because it's fun. So again, this is completely made up. Fiction. Because God forbid any of these people still have like estates that will sue me. Now, Constance O'Day Flannery. Obviously, she's going to be probably first, maybe second generation Irish girl. Now, when I see this, I'm seeing someone who loves her Irish heritage. Obviously, she's kept her full Irish, like, surname and name. However, she's definitely one that when you, like, hang out with her and stuff, she's just like, my granddad was a bastard. A bastard. And she has her ties to the Catholic Church, but she went to Catholic school probably all her life. And if she's anything like my father, who went to Catholic school all his life, he says, and I quote, they just beat religion out of me. My dad is one of the few atheists, and I guess that started in the 70s. He went to Catholic school all his life, and they just beat Christianity out of him. And so I was very lucky to grow up in a very openly religious household. For a Southerner in the Bible Belt, I had a very rare upbringing. But I feel like she's a lot like my dad in the sense that they have their little Catholic ties and they have their fun stories, but they hate nuns, they hate priests, and they're just like, fuck the Catholic Church. What does she do? She writes, obviously, and I feel like these romance novels are a little bit of her like Catholic rebellion. She's like, oh, I'm going to write some dirty novels. But the Catholic girl in her, because I understand, of no matter how against it you are, you still carry those kind of fundamental values. And that's probably why she didn't write a fucking sex scene in this novel. She wrote some raunchy stuff, but not, I mean, this is no Firestar. Again, if we ever get to Firestar sex scenes, y'all gonna have to bring like a red Gatorade and a towel because you're gonna be exhausted reading those. We'll have to do that pretty soon here. But again, I feel like she's like Catholic rebellion. I'm gonna write dirty novels, but not too dirty because she just, that upbringing, you just sometimes can't. I fight it all the time. Y'all have told me ad nauseum, and I appreciate it, if y'all don't mind sending me, like, you know, paying for Patreon content. And I'm always just like, I feel so guilty. I'm taking people's money during a recession. That's why I could not make it more than $7 because I was like, I cannot. But y'all have been so kind, so I'll shut up. Just know I really appreciate it. If you're on Patreon, just know. Now, Constance Again, I feel like she's a hoot. She's probably not married. Again, she probably, a lot of these romance authors, I'm like, I don't think they're all married. I don't know why. Why is that? Why do we feel that way? Like all of them are like not single, but like single by choice. I feel like they're kind of like Blanche Devereaux or Jack A from like 227, where they're just like, we have a good time, but we're not like tied down. I don't know why I feel that way with a lot of these romance authors. Maybe because they write their favorite, like they're the epitome of what they want in a man, and it's just you can't beat fictional men. You can't. Now, what is Constance? Do you think she wants to be called Connie? I bet she wants to be called Connie. I bet she's like, oh, honey, don't do the Constance. You're not my grandma. Call me Connie, okay? Just Connie O'Day. That's fine. Connie O'Day. Look, there's Connie O'Day. That's so cute. My mom's side, fun fact, my mom's side is Irish. They are McCrorys, and definitely grew up, if you want to know my heritage, mom's side is Irish, dad's side, Mediterranean, Southern French. My grandma is from France, and she's from Marseille. Is that how you say it? Oh, God, she's going to kill me if she ever watches this. Anyways, she's from there. And now that I'm growing my hair color out, she's so excited because she's like, oh, now you look like a beautiful French woman. And I'm just like, I don't think I do, but thank you. I definitely got my skin tone from the Irish side, but it turns gold like I do tan. So I don't know. Who cares? I'm Southern and from Louisiana. I can't be one of those white people on St. Patrick's Day that's just like, I'm, 75 quarters Irish. Like, no one cares. But yes, what is Constance bringing to the potluck? The author potluck that we have? What is she bringing? Of course she's going to bring Irish whiskey. Of course. That's not even a question. She's going to bring something from her granddad's stash because fuck him. Again, she has something out against her grandfather. There's always some like Irish hatred for like some patriarch in the family. And she's just going to be like, that bastard, drink it all, girls. But of course, I do feel like she's a huge feminist. I feel like she's a lot like me in the sense we're very staunch feminists, but we do love being like in domestic hobbies. She probably loves baking, loves cooking, has a gorgeous garden, and can sew like a motherfucker. But very, very liberal feminist, much like myself. I feel like a lot of us here, I feel like we're all kind of like that. Like we all want to bake and cook and garden, but we also want to have like the right to get an abortion, Is that so much to ask? I feel like I blew through the cover and this author lore, but again, this book is so jam-packed, I want to get to it. So, disclaimer, I'm not a professional voice actress. We're just having fun. I have been practicing a Philly accent, but I sound like Romy from Michelle and Romy's high school reunion. It's not a professional. We're just recapping. We're just having fun. So I know my accents are not top tier. You're getting them for free. Deal with it. I'm just having fun. I got to practice because one day someone's going to hire me to be on an anime and then my kids will think I'm cool finally. That's like my ultimate goal is to like voice actress on an anime so that my stepson thinks that I'm cool. This is from Walnut Creek, California, this copy. A lot of these old books have like annotations and stuff and stamps. And so it's super cute. But yeah, if you're in Walnut Creek, California, hooked on books, that's where this is from. Y'all, it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be a lot. Y'all, it's going to get a little, in the beginning, you're like, okay, we see where this is going, but I swear it picks up. So stay with me. All right. And without further ado, let's get into Time Kept Promises by Constance O'Day Flannery. Chapter 1, I want to open just like the attitude of this novel. If there was one thing she'd learned, it was that fame was fleeting. Its allure was like the shimmer of gossamer. Holding on to it was just as fragile. It was, to her way of thinking, as futile as trying to capture the wind. I'm telling you, cut your hair. Look what it did for Madonna. Upon occasion, she actually looks decent. Christine Gavin is a journalist and interview. Her job at this moment is she interviews celebrities for her broadcast station in Philly. And that is her makeup and hair beautician person trying to get her to cut her beautiful strawberry curls. Now, Chris is preparing to interview a movie star called Linda. And Linda is adamant before taping that they get her legs. Film my legs. Make sure you get my legs. Which Chris is like, sure, Linda, we'll do your legs. And just to kind of show the frustration that Chris feels in her career right now, because she's wanting to be the next Oprah. She's wanting to be Kelly Clarkson, the morning show, the Drew Barrymore. She wants to have her own morning talk show in Philadelphia. And right now she's kind of stuck with these like E-News interviews with all of these celebrities. And she says, Linda, you're already famous for that swimsuit layout in Sports Illustrated. Now you've made the crossover into film. How does it feel to be tagged in Hollywood's greatest legs? Linda Nolan feigned distress, as if the question was one she was tired of answering. Actually, Chris, it's a bit of an embarrassment. That's why I chose this particular film. It gave me the opportunity to show that I'm more than just legs. It was a very emotional experience getting into the character of an Appalachian woman. And now I'm afraid the length of my legs have nothing to do with the growth of the character. And I just thought that was funny because as a past journalist, it is that thing of get my legs, make sure you get my legs. And then during the interview, it's like, I'm more than just legs. Very J-Lo energy. Chris is a petite 5'2", strawberry blonde, brown eyes. Quote, body could be mistaken for a teen's. Ooh, I don't like that. Nothing wrong with it. Like, I know a lot of y'all are very petite and do get mistaken for teens. But in a romance novel, you're kind of like, I don't know if I like that phrasing. I don't know if I feel like there's a better way to say it. But back in the day, and even now, who am I kidding? Everybody wants to look like a goddamn teenager, and I don't know why. We all know why. But that's a Patreon discussion. Because if you're on the Patreon, we did have a discussion about how long should sex last, which was interesting because a lot of people brought up like, well, lesbian sex can last very long. And are we talking about actual insertion? Go to the Patreon, $7. You won't forget it. We have her meeting with her boss after this, and she wants to cover actual news. She's tired of doing this Hollywood bullshit. She's like, I don't care about Linda and her legs. I'm so tired of these pompous pop stars. Ugh. She's about to turn 30. I know. Hold her hand, y'all. And she's alone. She has no boyfriend, no prospects. She's like that girl off of Pride and Prejudice where she's like, I'm almost 30 and I don't have a husband. I'm a failure. And so she does what we all do. She cuts her hair in the bathroom. We've all done it. I've done it where you just have a mental breakdown and you take, what does Miranda Lambert say? You take some kitchen scissors up to your hair. She goes to eat Chinese food with her best friend, and there they kiki. They eat Chinese food. They talk about ex-boyfriends. And Chris makes the joke of like, I guess I'll join a convent, which isn't a bad idea. I feel like a lot of us nowadays with the Catholic thing, like we all want to be in a convent because it's like, I just want to hang out with girls and garden and do spiritual things and clean and cook, but like without the religious overtone. So maybe we need to open up like convents that aren't Catholic. And it's just kind of funny she brings up the convent thing because that's such a trope in the 80s of you would say you're going to join a convent because you couldn't get a man. And now we make the joke of I want to join a convent to avoid men. Chris's brother is getting married in Virginia. And so she's going to go down and spend her birthday in Virginia with her brother and his like new little wife. Her brother is trying to revamp this old house, plantation, mansion, whatever. It's Virginia, so it's probably a plantation called the Riviera. And he's trying to turn it into a restaurant. Know that, because that's important. Chapter 2, we jump to Virginia in 1871. Okay, because remember, it's time travel. So remember, 1988, we got Chris. She's Philly. She's a TV anchor. She's alone on her turning 30, alone, going to Virginia to visit her brother at the Riviera. 1871, we learn the Riviera's history. It's been in technically Okay, this is going to be confusing. Chris is going to be the Philly 1988. Christina is going to be the 1800s. They're very different, so you won't get them confused. But the Riviana's history is that Christina owns it, and she's trying to keep it alive. It's up to Christina to save it. Despite loving another man, Christina will marry some rich guy so that he can restore the Riviana. Because, of course, the guy she loves is broke. The man she marries, Sean O'Mara, dark Irish man. They loathe each other. Christina and Sean fucking hate each other. It was kind of an arranged business marriage, but he did earnestly think like they could work something out and make an actual marriage. But Christina, as we will learn, is psychotic. Sean's passion, y'all, is horses. He trades and breeds thoroughbreds. He's a thoroughbred man, and he has a fuck ton of horses. I forgot exactly how much, but he has a shit ton of horses. His backstory is more or less his dad's from Ireland, moved to Pennsylvania, actually Philly. So he's from Philadelphia as well, just a different time. And he moved to Virginia to the Riviana to raise thoroughbreds. And he married Christina as a business arrangement. And she's a total fucking bitch. We meet Christina's true lover, Judson. And I know I'm throwing these names out for you. I promise they'll make sense, but there's so much that happens in this novel. We kind of have to keep it at a quick pace. Christina, 1800s. Christina's true lover is not Sean. It is Judson. It has the tidbit of they lost their virginities to each other at 15. Okay. I don't know why I thought that was important, but I guess I did. And here I want to read let's get a feel of Sean and Christina's marriage. Okay. Sean is from Philly, and he's said to have an Irish lilt, so I won't do a full Irish accent, but I'm going to try to do the softest of Irish accents. Oh, God help me. All right. I wasn't aware we were having guests, Christina. He stared at her, not believing she was threading her arm around through Taylor's. It's Lynette's birthday. I thought it would be pleasant to spend the afternoon together and celebrate. She raised her chin as if in defiance and tightened her hold on Judson's arms. The air was already thick with the mugginess that always preceded a thunderstorm. Corin Cunningham looked at the married couple and could feel their tension. She had no need to search the sky for confirmation that a storm was about to take place. Sean glared at his wife's clinging hands, then allowed his gaze to travel up Taylor's jacket until they settled on Judson's face. The Southerner's expression only could be described as gloating. An intense white anger gathered at Sean's chest. Not from jealousy, for there was none involved. He might have been naive when marrying Christina, but he had quickly realized that his bride had given her body to another before the wedding night. No, after 3 years of marriage, Sean was fully aware that his wife secretly met with Taylor, but he felt no jealousy. What provoked and incensed him now was that for the first time she was flaunting her lover in front of others. That was the one thing she had never done in the past. He felt his throat tighten with rage as he observed Christina's fingers caress the material of Taylor's jacket, and he had to force out the words in his mouth. I wish to speak with you, madam, in private. Christina continued to smile, her mouth holding a hint of satisfaction. I'd rather not leave my guest, Sean, she said calmly, especially since we've just decided to move our little party into the house before the rain comes. And he's very upset with her because she's run up their credit exponentially. She bought like 20 pairs of gloves. Okay. He tells her he's cutting you off credit. I plan to write each establishment and inform them that all the purchases must be cleared with me. If you won't stop, I'll do it for you. Suddenly, her face crumbled and tears appeared at the corners of her eyes. Please, Sean, she pleaded in a loud voice, loud enough so the others could overhear. I promise I'll behave. Only please don't do that to me. He was taken aback by her performance and immediately removed his hand from her arm. He'd never seen Christina cry. He stared down at her in disbelief, shocked that she would behave so in front of others. Now see here, Trent Cunningham, ever the Southern gentleman, quickly stood up and started to walk in their direction. Sean's head snapped up and his eyes blazed in anger. "Stay where you are, Cunningham," he ordered. "This doesn't concern you." When confronted with O'Mara's fury, Trent Cunningham stopped dead in his tracks. He continued to look at Judson Taylor for help and was confused by the other man's expression. Judson seemed embarrassed by the scene taking place. Feeling powerless, Trent slowly returned to his chair. "What are you doing?" Sean whispered down to his wife. "Isn't it enough that we live in a private hell? Must you make it now public?" "You're just angry because Judson's here," she whispered back, her voice taunting. "I don't give a damn anymore. Just have the decency to meet your lover away from my home." "This is my home, Sean. Riviera will never be yours. You merely pay the bills. That's all you were ever good for. Don't you know that?" Realizing he was incapable of answering, she quickly continued her ridicule of him. "And now you want to start a stud farm? You?" She emphasized disgust written all over her face. "Who lived the life of a gelding, unable to keep his wife in his bed." So, hey, Christina, kind of a bitch. She wants to save her home, but we have absolutely no sympathy for her. Okay, she's very Scarlett O'Hara, but Scarlett O'Hara wasn't like a heroine, so very Scarlett O'Hara. She's a very spoilt brat who just wants her man and wants to save her home, and you're just kind of like, okay, like, but you're kind of doing it like in a really bitchy way, girl. Sean is very upset with this whole interaction, and there's a huge thunderstorm happening. So he gets on his favorite thoroughbred, Celtic Star, and he rides out into the goddamn storm. This man has lost his mind. And Christina plays an innocent. She's like, "I must go after my husband. He's so angry with me. Sean, no, come back." And we all know she's fucking lying. So she goes after him, again, feigning that she's like concerned of his safety. But meanwhile, she gets on a horse with a smile on her face. And she's like, "I'm about to screw his life over completely." We jump back to present day Riviana. Present day 1988. How long? Almost 40 years ago. Ouch. But it is present day, and we are at the Riviana in Virginia. Chris is there with her brother and her sister-in-law. They've been restoring this old mansion into a restaurant, but there's a lot of drama with history buffs because a lot of these history nerds are like, I guess her brother is like wanting to modernize it, and you hate to see it. I don't know if he's wanting to restore it in its natural state. I think he's wanting to turn it into some like 80's country club. And so a lot of Virginia history nerds are like, hey, no way. Leave our mansion alone. And they're protesting. Chris's brother brings down a portrait, and it looks identical to her. Identical. And she's like, "Oh, this is really funny. You had a portrait made of me that looks like I'm in 1800s garb. Ha ha ha." And he's like, "No, we found this in the attic, girl." And so they kind of go back and forth with Chris is like, "Very funny. You got a portrait made. You're just trying to like, it's a funny 30th birthday joke. Like you're trying to make me look really old with this old portrait." And he's like, "No, we found it in the attic. Isn't that crazy?" And we kind of learn through Jack and Chris their upbringing. Now, Chris's mom and grandmother and great-grandmother were all very hard on her because they kept saying that insanity ran in the family and that the women in their family were cursed. Chris is like, "I just want a quiet evening to myself on my birthday. Y'all go out and have a nice night. Okay, y'all have fun. I'm just going to stay in the Riviana and just chill." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he says, We've respected your wishes for a quiet evening." He sighed deeply and sorrowfully. "I once asked Mother why she was so hard on you, why she watched you like a hawk. I believe you are finally showing signs." Chris slapped his hand away. "Oh, shut up." She giggled. "You're not pulling that on me again." "What?" Elaine grinned at their playfulness. Brother and sister looked at one another, each sharing a private joke, and again laughed. It was Chris who leaned forward and kissed Jack's cheek. Gazing at her sister-in-law, she said affectionately, "Pray for his son, Elaine, and pray harder that he's nothing like his father." I don't get it," Elaine said. I'll explain it in the car, Jack said. So again, it's not a lot. Like if you read the book, you'll get it. I'm doing a terrible job. But essentially, Chris and Jack's family, like I said, the women are always terrified that insanity is going to take over. Like the great grandmother was just like, keep a tight leash on all, like the mom and the next mom and now Chris. And so Jack's always like, mom always thought you were going to get the crazy because the crazy runs in our family apparently. So you're kind of like, okay, Chris has a family history of being mentally unwell. Don't we all? Chris's brother and his wife leave. Chris gets fucking smashed alone listening to Kenny Rogers. Your 30th birthday and you're getting drunk listening to Kenny Rogers. Ooh, that is a sad birthday. That is a very sad birthday. She's looking at the portrait. She's on the couch, drunk as a skunk. I don't know what on earth Kenny Rogers music is playing. She's looking at this portrait and she decides to take the back off of it to see what, because usually like you can figure out where it's from on the back. So she takes the back off and she finds a newspaper that states this, and let me read it. The date is April 13th, 1871. The headline was, "Local woman missing, presumed drowned." Chris grinned as she started reading the story that followed. Mrs. Sean O'Mara, the former Christina Marie Madsen of Riviana Plantation, was reported missing by her husband late Wednesday night after Mrs. O'Mara's lathered horse was found wandering in the woods that border the estate. On further investigation by Sheriff Vern Loftus, it was determined that Mr. and Mrs. O'Mara had been involved in a violent argument prior to Mrs. O'Mara's disappearance. Quote, "Christina went after him, Mr. O'Mara, to discuss it," Elizabeth Hart of Coventry Plantation explained. Quote, "We were having a party for Lynette Taylor when Mr. O'Mara came up to Christina and started arguing with her. I don't know what it was all about," end quote, the distraught Miss Hart declared. Quote, "But it was terrible. At one point, I thought he was going to strike her, and he said such terrible things. We were all afraid for her when she went after him, and we decided to remain until Christina returned from her ride," end quote. This reporter had to wait for Mrs. Hart's crying to subside before she could continue. Quote, "Christina never came back. They found her horse with whip marks all over it, and her hat was lying on the riverbank. The sheriff said there were signs of struggle. I can't believe this. Poor Christina," end quote. The other guests, Mrs. Hart's sister, Mary, and Mr. and Mrs. Trent Cunningham of Jamesburg, Mr. Judson Taylor of the neighboring Everleaf Plantation, and his sister Lynette, parentheses, upstanding citizens of this country, have all corroborated this account of the day Miss O'Mara was last seen. According to Sheriff Loftus, because of the severity of Wednesday's thunderstorm, they are waiting to see if a body is washed up before any arrests are made. Sheriff Loftus would only remark at this time, Mr. O'Mara is under suspicion of committing foul play. Did he kill her? Ooh, I don't know. We'll see. Again, this is a wild story. As she finishes reading that, thunder, lightning, that thunderstorm, and it's so loud and so bright, it blinds her. And she wakes up. She kind of like faints for a second because she's drunk. Okay. She's like drunker than a skunk. And she like, whoa, like lightning and stuff. It kind of knocks you out. And she wakes up and she is like, why is the furniture in this room different? And she's kind of bumbling and stumbling around trying to find the light switch, and she can't find a light switch. And she hears, "Christina," quote, "He stood in the doorway staring at her as if he'd seen a ghost. Then he seemed to find his senses, and she watched as the tall, handsome man's face transformed with hatred. He entered the room slowly, and Chris had the distinct feeling she was being cornered. Yet her mouth refused to move, to explain. She watched as his lips hardened into a sneer of disgust. "I see you're up to your old tricks again, aren't you? What did you hope to accomplish this time?" Her tongue felt 3 times too large for her mouth, and she could feel the sweat of fear popping out all over her body as the man in the old-fashioned clothes came even closer to her. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with bitterness and contempt. You weren't happy just making me miserable in this marriage. Did you intend to see me hang for murder? Her lower jaw dropped open with shock. What was wrong with this man? Knowing she had to speak, she swallowed several times before muttering, My name's Christine. He merely stared at her, and Chris watched as he stood on the opposite side of the desk, his knuckles turning white with rage as he gripped its edge. He continued to look at her with revulsion, as if the sight of her made him ill. When he leaned into the desk, she could see his jaw moving as he ground his back teeth together. He spoke, but it was only to say 3 words. You selfish bitch. Ooh, I know it's bad to go back and, like, it's crazy to go back in time. You don't want to go back in time as, like, an angry man who's, like, being framed for murder's wife. Like, ooh, this is bad. Obviously, the rest of the next chapter is Chris is having a mental breakdown. You know, she's like, this is all a dream. This is all a dream. We would all think that. We'd be like, Kenny Rogers, Scotch, we're dreaming, okay? This is crazy. And she's telling him, like, go away. I'm going to wake up any minute now. And he's like, are you drunk? Are you drunk? You're framing me for murder? And you're drunk in our house? Girl. Christina. Again, from now on, Chris is going to be the 1988 one. Christina is going to be the 1800s. Sean thinks Christina, he thinks Chris, who he thinks is Christina, because apparently they look identical. That portrait was Christina. Yeah, the portrait was Christina. And she looks identical to Chris. And so everybody thinks that Chris is Christina. And he's like, what? It's like the worst thing to do when you go back in time. She says, my name's Christine Gavin. I come from Philadelphia. I was visiting my brother Jack when... You think, he interrupted, that by changing your hair, losing your accent, and wearing men's clothes, that you won't be recognized? He looked at her with disbelief. We may have wound up hating each other, Christina, but I never doubted your intelligence until now. Obviously, they're fighting because he's like, you're drunk and you're fucking crazy. And she's like, I'm from 1988 in Philadelphia. I don't belong in this time or this place. Let's get a look at Sean O'Mara because she looks at him and so we kind of get a character description. She guessed him to be in his mid-30s and he looked to be over 6 feet tall when standing. He was lean, sinewy, built like a runner, but with his black hair and blue eyes, he reminded her of Pierce Brosnan, the actor. The slight Irish lilt to his voice completed the image. Chris mentally giggled, then congratulated herself on inventing such a fantastic-looking dream man. Now, if she could just make him disappear. So she thinks like she imagined Pierce Brosnan. She's like a young Pierce Brosnan. So obviously that's who we're going to cast in this movie. Real quick. I want Pierce Brosnan as Sean. And I want Lisa Ann Walter from Abbott Elementary, Parent Trap, because she's a Philly girl and she has red hair. I want her as Chris. And I want this to be made now. Just age it up. No shame in that. Age it up. No big deal. They don't have to be in their fucking 30s. But yes, I want Lisa Ann Walter as Chris / Christina. And I want Pierce Brosnan as Sean. I think that would be great. Sean goes over his previous grief in like a internal dialogue, and he's very heartbroken over how his life is planned out. He's like, I have a fucking wife that's trying to frame me for murder. All I wanted was my ponies. He's like, he's such a horse girl. And I have a horse girl video explaining the horse girl concept if you want to go to that. But anyways, he's such a horse girl. He's like, I just wanted to like raise thoroughbreds. I didn't want to marry someone who's going to frame me for murder. But he does make the observation that Chris's eyes show fear. And he's like, I have never seen Christina ever show fear in her eyes. They go to sleep because he thinks that Christina, aka Chris, is having a mental breakdown. He's like, you're drunk. You're fucking crazy. Go to bed. We'll handle this tomorrow. He's like, we'll take you to the sheriff's office tomorrow and you can clear this up. Chris thinks that, again, she's dreaming. So she's like, whatever, I'll go to sleep and I'll wake up and I'll be back in the 80s. No big deal. She wakes up, she screams because there's a maid in her room. And she, of course, realizes this is not a dream. This is real. And so she grabs the maid and she's like, please help me. I'm from Philadelphia in 1988. And the maid is like, oh my God. And she makes the sign of the cross. And she's like, sorry, Christina, I'm going to go make you breakfast. Bye. And Chris is like, I'm so fucked. Like, what would you do? I know we see time travel shit all the time, but truly, if you went back in time, you would have a mental breakdown. You'd be like, oh my God, I have a cat that needs to be fed. Who's going to feed my cat? Chris goes through breakfast. You know, she's walking around the house and she notices that all of the people she meets and the faces they make are not relieved to see her. They're fearful. They're loathful. They don't like her because, remember, everybody, everyone thinks that Chris is Christina. They look identical. So she's like, oh, like Christina, damn, like nobody and no one is happy to see me. Sean takes her to the sheriff's office. Chris pleads her case. Obviously, the sheriff is like, okay, Sean, I'm glad you found your wife. She sounds a little like she needs to be at home. Everyone thinks she's fucking crazy. Rightfully so. We've seen it in all the time travel movies. Everybody thinks the person that's from the different time is fucking nuts. I like this tidbit that the sheriff likes Sean despite him being a Yankee. He's like, I like him. I know he's a Yankee, I know. But I like the man. And I just think that's always so funny. Because it's still true to this day. It's insane, that Yankee Southern narrative down here. It's ridiculous. As Sean is taking her home, a kid throws mud at Christina. Like a huge thing of mud. And she's very upset because everybody hates her. She's in a new time and everybody fucking hates her. And she's like really upset. And Sean feels kind of bad. And so he helps her clean it up. And he's like, I don't know if Christina bumped her little head and now she's nice and good, but this is weird. He has no idea what to make of the situation. Even the maids can't understand why Christina is now nice. But despite all of the confusion, y'all, where is Christina? Where is real Christina? Is she dead? Where is she? Like, that's what Chris is thinking. She's like, okay, everybody thinks I'm Christina. Where's Christina? Is she going to show up? Is she dead? What happened? Did Sean murder her? Let's go on. We cut to a dusty, crusty cabin in the middle of nowhere. And Christina and Judson are kind of regoing their plan. Christina, the evil Christina, we'll call her that, evil Christina, and her beau, Judson, planned all this so that they could frame Sean for murder. I thought this was interesting. Judson's sister, Lynette, doesn't want a husband because she has him. It's not a huge plot point, but it's a weird one. Lynette is so into her brother that she doesn't want to get married. Okay. We have a small sex scene between Christina and Judson because Christina is a very sexually active woman. God bless her. She has a big appetite, and it kind of keeps Judson in line, to say the least. Go to the Patreon if you want to hear about it. Obviously, though, we see that evil Christina and Judson made it look like Christina is dead so that Sean would be tried for murder. I don't know what her plan is, because if she shows up to the Riviana, obviously he didn't murder. Oh, wait, because then he'll be dead because they executed people back then, didn't they? Okay, now I'm seeing it. That's not a plot hole. That's just Montana being stupid. Chris, goes and tries to help the servants. She's trying to be like, she's just a normal girl. And she's like, here, let me help you with that laundry. Here, I can cook. Let me cook. Do you need help dusting? Like, give me a rag. I'll do it. And they're just like, what the fuck is wrong with Christina? Chris wonders, because again, it's 1988 when she's from. She wonders if they Freaky Friday'd, you know? She's like, did we Freaky Friday? Like, are we switched? Is Christina in the 80s ruining my life? She goes to find Sean. Sean is in his stable and a mare is giving birth. And it's really sweet. Sean is such a little pink pony girl. He loves his horses, and he's comforting the mare, and he's like, "It's all right, lass. You got the, God, I wish I had him when I was giving birth." My poor husband was doing his best. But he's so calm, and he's talking to the horse, and good Chris watches this beautiful little baby foal come out, and Sean's wiping it down, and she's like, "Wow, he's a good man. He just got a bitch ass wife that he thinks is me." Chris tells Sean, like, "Hey, dinner's coming. Do you want to, like, I'll walk with you." And he says, "No, go on without me." And she says, "I'll wait for you." And Sean thinks that's really weird because he's like, Christina never, ever waited to have dinner with me. But he'll go because he thinks this is a performance. He's like, "Okay, wait for me, honey." Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. You're so kind, Christina. And he's like, "I'm going to watch this performance. This is going to be great. And I'm also going to bring up, I want a divorce." And this is, again, the 1800s. That's pretty big. And much like we always love, it's dinner time. And we have a dinner time scene between the two. Quote, "She had supervised the setting of the table, personally arranged the spring flowers for its centerpiece, and was proud of her accomplishments. Chris felt almost like a wife waiting for her approval. As Sean sat down opposite her, she noticed that his hair was still damp from his bath, and she smiled at his surprised expression. He didn't return the smile. "You did this?" She nodded. "Why?" Chris's grin slowly faded. What was wrong with him now? "What do you mean, why? I thought it would be nice. I thought..." She let her words trail off. She thought it was how they should dine, how he was used to dining. Angry with him for spoiling the mood she'd created for dinner, she clasped her hands together and looked at the glazed plate in front of her. Just when she was giving him the benefit of the doubt, just when she had decided he was a decent person, he insisted on being miserable. She lifted her head and attempted to smile at Riva as the maid offered her a small platter that contained ham, scalloped potatoes, and string beans. "Thank you, Riva. Please tell May she did a splendid job," Chris said, smiling in response to the maid's nervous curtsy. And they start to eat, and Sean says, "Ham, I've never seen you eat that before." Her chin lifted in defiance as she continued to chew the meat. She wiped her mouth and said, "Oh, I love it. Anything else you haven't seen me eat? I really do have a great appetite." He stopped chewing as he stared at her. Grinning, Chris said, "I don't have to put up with your bad mood, you know. You're not going to make me feel guilty because I wasn't the one who set out to frame your murder." He nearly choked on his food. Just as she was about to rise and offer assistance, he reached for his water goblet and drank half of it. Slamming the fragile glass back on the table, he gasped, "By God, woman, is there no end to your boldness?" Chris shrugged her shoulders and calmly cut another piece of meat. "I don't consider it bold to tell the truth." She raised her head and innocently stared back at him. "Unless, of course, you're using the word bold to denote courage or bravery. Then I suppose I should thank you for your compliment. And as I told you last night, I'm not your wife. I'll go along with the charade for your servants and neighbors, but I want you to know I don't deserve your resentment. I'm innocent in this." "Innocent?" His color was even darker than when he had been choking. "Whatever tricks you're up to, madam, they'll not work on me. You're a good actress, Christina, but you forget I know you too well." Chris chewed her food and nodded. "I'm not going to get angry. You can say whatever you want, but it's directed at the wrong person. My name is Chris, not Christina. I just look like her. Whatever problems you have with your wife is your business. I prefer to keep out of them." She was prepared for another outburst of anger. She was not prepared to see him sit back in the chair, look to the ceiling, and burst out in laughter. When May rushed into the dining room, Chris was as bewildered as the cook. They both looked at O'Mara and then at each other. Chris shrugged, saying, "I have no idea why Mr. O'Mara is consumed with laughter. Do you?" May glanced once more at her employers and quietly backed out of the room. As Sean wiped his eyes, he grinned. "You know, Christina, Chris, I intended to speak to you about a divorce. Then, when you started talking a moment ago, I saw my way out. You've gone over the edge. You're completely irrational. Even the sheriff heard you this morning. I'm just going to give you a little time and let you hang yourself. He picked up his knife and fork and smiled. In the meantime, I have to admit I'm beginning to find this transformation quite amusing. Please, he gestured with the knife, keep speaking. This is definitely better than eating alone as we usually do. What other startling information do you have to impart? She was breathing deeply, trying to bring her anger under control. She tried being honest with him, but he'd done exactly as she feared. The threat of being forced into an institution was the one thing that terrified her, especially since asylums were so primitive in 1871. So she'd play the role of wife, be mistress of the Riviana, and face whatever surprises awaited for her. But she would not let this man defeat her. She looked at him as he ate, grinning and waiting for her next words. Admitting that he was attractive didn't come easy, but what came even harder was the admission that she was attracted to him. He was old-fashioned, chauvinistic, and sarcastic, but she'd seen him with others and he could be kind. And damn it, when he laughed, he'd been so appealing that she was shocked by her body's response. But she vowed that he wouldn't defeat her, neither by his sarcasm, his threats, nor his damn good looks. Feeling his eyes on her, she picked up her water glass and sipped. She raised her eyes to his and smiled. Do you prefer pizza or Chinese food? He narrowed his blue eyes. I beg your pardon? Chris picked up a forkful of potatoes, making him wait for her answer. Dabbing her mouth with the napkin, she continued as pleasantly as if the previous conversation had never taken place. Today, May was concerned about selecting menus for dinner. I was just wondering whether you liked Italian or Chinese food. He stopped cutting the thick slice of ham on his plate and stared at her. I've never had Chinese food. What? That settles it, she interrupted, grinning like a fool. Tomorrow we're having Italian. I love a dinner scene. Dinner scenes are the best. We had one in Cary. Okay, Patreon members. But dinner scenes are always the best. They're going into town. Chris is going into town to get ingredients for an Italian dinner in 1871 Virginia. Okay. Oh, wait. Prior to that, though, her and Sean have this exchange at breakfast, and I found it funny. She goes and asks Sean at breakfast for money because she doesn't have money. She doesn't understand any, it's new. So she's like, hey, can I borrow some bucks to go get some dinner? And he's like, money? I'm going to town this morning to shop for food, and I'll have to pay for it somehow. Don't worry, I'll bring you back your change. Ignoring her last comment, he leaned his elbows on the edge of the table and stared at her. You're going to town? After what happened yesterday? Biting into her cinnamon bun, Chris nodded. She sipped the hot coffee and said, I'm prepared. And anyway, I'm just going shopping. It's not like I'm marching in there like Rambo. I intend to be very nice. Like who? She saw his confused expression. It was becoming increasingly familiar. Rambo, a character from the movies. You see, never mind. Look, can I have the money or not? And it's pretty cute because now she's just fully leaning into this. And she's like, oh, I'm not going to Rambo. And he's like, who's Rambo? And she says, oh, you'll see him in the movies in 70 years? And he's like, what's a movie? And she's like, bye. It's very cute. I know we have he's being framed for murder and it's pretty serious. And she's kind of having a mental breakdown because all of her friends and family are 1988. But she is allowing herself to have a little fun with him of just talking about modern things. Because again, she was like, oh, it's like Rambo. Who's Rambo? Oh, it's in a movie. You'll see him in 70 years. What's a movie? I gotta go. Bye. Again, perfect exchange for a television series. But I love to see that Chris is now having fun and fucking with them. Okay. She has a driver named Walker, which I thought was funny. She has a driver named Walker, and he kind of serves as her Andrea to her Miranda Devil Wears Prada, in the sense that when they walk around town, he whispers who people are, because everybody kind of right now just thinks that, quote, evil Christina bonked her head and forgot everything. So they kind of just think that she hurt her head and has amnesia. So he's leaning over and being like, that's Mrs. Stevenson, and that's Mr. Johnson. And that way she can be like, Mrs. Stevenson, how are you? Obviously, there are no tomatoes in 1871 Virginia. I think it's off season. And so the store clerk's like, yeah, girl, we ain't got any Italian food. This is Virginia. You can go to the one Italian family in town and see if they have like a garden. So imagine that, like you want a pizza or Italian food and you're in 1800s and you have to just hope that there's an Italian immigrant family nearby. It's pretty sweet though. There are kids at the little general store and Chris is like, buy them all candy. Charge it to Mr. O'Hara's account, okay? Buy all of these kids candy and charge it to his account, okay? Again, she's fucking with him. She's like, what, you gonna get mad at me because I bought kids candy? Okay. I'm the evil one. And I thought this was kind of cute, this little exchange with this boy. She heard childish gasps of delight and turned to gaze down at the blonde-haired boy standing closest to her. Jawbreakers used to be my favorite, she whispered to him. You can make them last for an hour. The boy giggled and pointed through the glass to the first row of candy. Oklahoma taffy's like that. You can chew it on till bedtime, take it out, sit it on the windowsill, and pop it right back when you wake up. Like such a little Forrest Gump kid. This old lady scolds her, like this old busybody is like, Christina, you're not being yourself. You're not being a bitch. What's wrong with you? Like, it's really weird. The Italian family are shoemakers. And so she asks Walker, want a new pair of boots? Let's get you a new pair of boots. And she gets her Italian, because you can't walk in and be like, hey, you got tomatoes back there, girl? So she's like, I want to buy this man some boots. But while I'm here, do y'all have parsley? She's cooking with the servants. She's showing them how to make Italian food. Again, very Lisa Ann Walter in there, because Lisa Ann Walter, I think, Sicilian and from Philly. So again, Lisa Ann Walter in there cooking with the servants, showing them how to do a pasta sauce. She wants to make, there's a pregnant maid called Tisha, and she's like, Tisha, I want to make you a pizza. Pregnant women love pizza. And Tisha's like, oh my God, Christina's going to kill me with this pizza. However, she goes to find Tisha to talk to her about her pregnancy. Because Chris strongly does have a maternal instinct throughout this book. She does want children. And she thinks that's because she's 30, that she's past childbearing years, which, I mean, biologically, I guess, but mentally you're like, no, that's okay. You're good. But anyways, she goes to find Tisha, and Tisha she is 9 months pregnant, y'all. This maid is 9 months pregnant, and she is manually doing laundry because it's the 1800s. So she is on her feet, squeezing, ironing, flapping. It's a lot. And as she's like carrying this load of laundry, she stumbles, and it's that exchange of Chris catches her. And she's like, oh my God, you're 9 months pregnant. And Tisha's like, it's okay, Miss Christina. I'm fine. The baby's not due, today. It could happen tomorrow. And Chris is absolutely inflamed. She's like, why are you working? This is insane. So she stomps to go find Sean and scold him for employing a 9-month pregnant woman. And she brings up the fact, she's like, you care more about your fucking pregnant horses than you do a pregnant woman. Not wrong. Not wrong. And as she is swatting him, very Fran Fine of just like, you care more about those goddamn horses than you do that pregnant woman doing laundry. And he grabs her arm and he smiles at her, genuinely smiles at her. And it's like this little spark of just like, uh-oh, is there chemistry brewing? Chris explains maternity leave to Sean and the rest of the household. And they're all like, what? And as she is fussing over Tisha, trying to get her in her bed, she's like, take my bed. Let's put your feet up. Let's do all these things. And I want to make the clarification here. Obviously, this is the 1800s in Virginia. The maids and drivers are all Black. And if you read this book, the vernacular of these servants, and they are servants, they are paid. They're not slaves, but let's be honest. Shoulder shrug for the audio listeners. And anyways, and Sean's not a bad man. He employs them, he pays them. But Christina was obviously a very abusive, racist Southern woman. And so they are all very afraid of Chris fussing over them because they don't want to lose their jobs. And so Tisha is like, thank you, but I don't want anybody to fire me. I need this job. And so it's just this battle of Chris, modern day Chris, trying to take care of this pregnant woman and her family and all the maids and stuff, and giving the driver boots. And these Southern Black people are just like, they've never experienced, I guess, that level of kindness from a white woman, especially one that was very abusive and racist to them. So it's a journey. It's a journey in the household, y'all. But do know, if you read this novel, the vernacular is very, Gone with the Wind, mammy type vernacular, which isn't inaccurate to the time, but I'm not gonna recite any of it. Do y'all know what gets Sean to finally kind of believe that Chris is from a different time? He looks through her clothes, because remember, she showed up in quote unquote menswear. She was wearing a blouse and pants, and he looks at it and there's a little tag on the back, and he looks at the tag and he says, "Who's Liz Claiborne?" And it says like all the directions of like, 90% polyester, machine washable. And he's like, "What does it mean, machine washable?" And he's like, "Maybe she is from somewhere else." And you're like, really? The Liz Claiborne tag on her blouse is what's going to convince you? But I guess if any of y'all go back in time, show the machine washable tag on your shirt. Sean kind of starts feeling attracted to Chris, and he feels disgusted that he is attracted to his wife. He's like, "Oh my God, am I attracted to Christina?" And it's funny because he's like, "I haven't been to the brothel in a while. Maybe I'll stop by, and like, maybe it's just that. Maybe I'm just horny." And he's like, "Am I so horny I'm finding my wife attractive?" Blah. Dinner is served. It is chicken parmesan and spaghetti. Sean hates it. He wants his Irish ham and potatoes, and him and Chris fight about it. Christina's sister, after dinner, Christina's sister, Elizabeth, shows up. Sean and Elizabeth are pretty close. For a second, I was kind of like, are they a thing? But they're not. But at first I thought it was like a sexual thing, but then when you read on, it's more of a paternal thing. Like Elizabeth is very young, very young. I think she's like 15, and he feels like a father figure towards her. But for a second I was like, what's happening here? Before I learned her age, I was like, what's happening here? Everybody loves Elizabeth. Beth for short, hates Christina. And so when Elizabeth shows up, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Elizabeth, you're home." And Chris is like, "Who the fuck is this?" And they're like, "It's your sister, girl." Duh. Feeling isolated, Chris goes to her room because everybody's so happy Elizabeth's here. And she's like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'll just go to my room." She has kind of a mental breakdown because she realizes, what if she can't get back? She's stuck. She has friends. She has a career. Remember, y'all, she's going to be like the next Oprah Winfrey in Philly. And she has her best friend. She has family. And she kind of like has a mental breakdown of just like, oh my God, what if I can't go back? Which is very accurate. Like, that would rock your world. So she goes to get some air, and she walks out into one of the pastures, and it's this beautiful scene of she's just, in her little 1800s dress and just kind of gazing out in the pasture, watching the horses eat. And she meets the young man that threw the mud ball at her. His name is Harry. He's there because he kind of apprentices under Sean. And she talks to him about the mud ball. She's very kind to him. She's like, "Why did you feel like you need to throw it?" And he's like, "I don't know. I'm sorry." Like, it's this thing of, he's like, "I thought you were this thing, and now that I'm talking to you." And she's like, she is like, "Maybe I was." She's like, "I don't really know where I am, Harry, and I don't know who I am, but I'm sorry if I was ever mean to you in the past." And they kind of have this really sweet moment. He's like, "I'm sorry I threw that mud ball at you, Miss Christina." And she's like, "Call me Chris." And it's like, oh, that's really sweet. But we learned that Harry wants to be a lawyer, and he and Elizabeth have a thing. And so Chris is like, "Oh, you like my sister? Okay." And like, Chris is, of course, like all of us. And she's like, "Ooh, I love gossip and getting into a matchmaking situation. Like, now I want to play Emma." And so she's like, "Okay, you and Beth like each other? Okay." Sean's kind of overwatching this, and he's kind of like, again, he does not know what to make of the situation. He's been so abused by Christina, and now this Christina's back saying she's Chris and she's nice, and he's like, "I don't know what to do." Anyways, and he sees her talking to Harry, and he's like, maybe she is a nice version now. However, Chris goes up to him later after dinner and she's like, please tell me what happened at that party. Remember the birthday party or whatever it was and where all of this happened. She says, please tell me what happened. What did I, quote unquote, say to you? What happened? And he's pissed because he thinks she's humiliating him by bringing up her lover twice. He's like, you're making me relive that day where you were flaunting your boyfriend in front of everybody, trying to humiliate. Wow, Christina. Wow. I thought you had changed, but really you're just wanting to punish me again. And she's like, no, I just want to know what happened at the party. Like, what are you talking about? I had a lover? What the fuck? Like, she's so confused. And he thinks that she's just like playing stupid and innocent to make him relive that awful day. Again, it's like, oh, it's so frustrating. And here I have this quote. Christina and Sean had a marriage that was beyond salvage. It never had a chance. She married him for money to keep Riviana. And she was not a virgin. A minor thing to Chris, but she knew it was important to Sean. Christina had made more enemies than Alexis Carrington. She was spoiled, malicious, vindictive, and manipulative. No wonder her own sister didn't love her. And she had also taken a lover, Judson. This last bit of information brought a smile to Chris's face. At least she now had a lead and a place to start. So Chris is like, I'm going to go find this Judson. Okay? I'm going to go find Judson because apparently the Everleaf plantation is literally next door. We go back to that dusty, crusty cabin with Judson and evil Christina. And guess what? He's painting her portrait. That portrait that sent everybody back, like sent Chris back in time, is the one Judson painted of Christina after the framed murder. Like, oh, again, I feel like I should have red thread and just be like, follow this, I promise. But anyways, Judson is making that portrait of Christina. Christina's plan is she's going to go to New Orleans and lay low as Maria Delacroix, a hooker. Because remember, she got a strong sexual appetite. So she wants to go be a sex worker in New Orleans in the 1800s, which is a death sentence, but whatever. And she's like, I'm going to go lay low as Maria Delacroix. And she's, again, very excited to be a whore. I mean, do what you love, y'all. Do what you love in life. And here we have an exchange between Chris and her, quote, sister, Elizabeth. Prior to this, Chris has been doting on Tisha, bringing her nursery gowns, toys, all kinds of things for the baby. Which, again, is very strange for this young black woman, this, like, white lady to bringing all of these gifts and toys. She's like, thank you, I guess. Like, she just feels like it's a trick. And like, she's so nervous. Rightfully so. Beth stood up to take her plate to the sink. Standing in front of a basket of biscuits, she picked up the edge of one. She was so angry. Christina was doing it again, taking away her friends. She'd seen how Tisha and May had smiled at her. By God, even Riva and Sada weren't frightened of her as they were before. Mary Kay Reardon told me at school that there's a strong suffragette society in Richmond, she said casually, knowing Christina was going to scream when she heard her next words. I think I'm going to join it. Chris looked at the girl and almost smiled. It was still easy to remember that when she was Beth's age and the need for independence had been a burning one. She also remembered what a challenge she'd been to her own mother. Really, Beth? She asked, appearing very interested. Tell me when you're planning on going to Richmond. I'll go with you. I think women's suffragette is an important issue. What? Beth placed her hands on her hips. When have you ever cared about anything except Riviana? I don't believe you give a damn whether women are granted the right to vote. Chris kept her face expressionless. Was there anyone who didn't want to pick a fight with her this morning? Really, Beth, I don't think there's anyone impressed by your use of profanity, but I do think you've recognized a valid cause. Women will definitely have to vote soon. Oh, really? The sarcasm was dripping from Beth's voice. How do you know that? Chris looked directly at the young girl. Her voice was low, almost riveting with its authority. I know, Beth. Take my word for it. Beth and Chris continued to stare at each other, neither willing to be the first to lower her eyes. It was a startled cry that tore their attention away. Tisha was staring at the kitchen floor, already wiping away fresh tears. I'm so sorry, Miss Christina. I think my baby's coming. Christina's mouth opened. A baby? Now? She looked at Sada. Go get Eli! She almost screamed, already nervous. All she could think about was Butterfly McQueen's famous line from Gone with the Wind. She didn't know nothing about birthing babies either. Patting Tish's back, she looked towards the hallway. Damn it, why don't they hurry up? She demanded of anyone. Catching Beth's shocked expression, Chris shrugged her shoulders. Well, sometimes the situation demands a little profanity, she explained. It was a feeble excuse, but she knew it. But damn it, where the hell was everyone? You'd think this was an everyday occurrence. Chris asks for a doctor, not a midwife. She's like, I don't give a fuck about this midwife bullshit. We need a doctor. However, the only doctor's in Richmond, and he's white. And Beth points out, and Beth is like, it sounds like a stranger when you open your mouth. Like, do you not know how anything works? Again, and everybody's kind of like, they just don't understand. And it's like, okay, even if y'all thought she was mentally unwell, y'all are not handling this well. But again, they point out that the doctor is a white man in Richmond. He's not going to travel this far to help a black woman give birth. And Chris is like, God damn it. I hate the 1800s. Like, we would all be so frustrated. Lynette Taylor, Judson's sister, shows up. And you're just like, could you not? Could you not? We're kind of busy. We don't need Judson's sister who fucking wants to fuck her brother showing up, okay? This is not White Lotus, Richmond, Virginia. And Lynette Taylor, excuse my language, but it's important for the character here, all right? She freaks out because a, quote, Negro baby is being born in the Riviana. Because, like, Tish is giving birth up in the master bedroom. And Lynette, again, woman of her time, is like, a black baby in the Riviana? Beth and Chris, however, team up and dismiss her. The sisters finally get along and are like, Lynette, get the fuck out of our house. If we want a baby to be born, blue, yellow, black, white, a horse, let us deal with it. Get the hell out of here. And it's very cute because, like, it's the first time Beth and Chris, like, link up. Lynette is very suspicious of this Christina. She's like, not Judson's Christina. And she's like, I'm not going to lose my brother again, because she thinks Christina's being all nice to get, like, Judson back or something. I don't know. But she's like, I'm not going to lose my brother to her again. And again, you're like, that's your brother. Ooh, little incesty. Lynette runs to Sean to complain about the affair of Christina and Judson. She's like, do you know that your wife and my brother are sleeping together? And she wants Chris, in a psych ward because she sounds like a Yankee. Everyone gasps in the house when her and Sean are fighting about this, because she was like, she needs to go to an insane asylum. She sounds like a Yankee. And everybody's like, she said a Yankee. Again, like, it's like, it must be exhausting to be like a white person in the South back in the 1800s, because it's like, not only were you racist, you were homophobic, you were sexist, and now it's like, if someone's born above the Mason, like, good God, it's exhausting. And to think, some people still live like that, y'all. Some people still live with those hurdles, and it's like, wow. Wowie wow. During all that kerfuffle, Lynette and Sean fighting, Naomi May Weaver is born, and she's so precious. I could just picture this little baby. It's so cute. And Chris is gushing over this baby. Again, she has a very strong desire to be a mother, and she's so much so that, like, Tisha is like, can I hold my baby? And Sean is pissed because he feels like Christina is winning everyone over. Again, he thinks this is some long game performance, and he's like, everybody's gonna love Christina and hate me, and I'm gonna get hanged. And he kind of, like, goes back to with Lynette of, he defended Christina about the affair and stuff, because he was like, it's not my fucking problem. Your brother's the one sleeping with a married woman. Like, get on to him. If you love him so fucking much, get out of here. And Sean, again, is like looking at Christina, and everybody's gushing over the baby, and he's like, I'm going fucking crazy. I think he literally thinks the devil has possessed him. He thinks it's a satanic possession. How Catholic. There's that Irish in him where he's just like, I think the devil has me. I need to go find a priest. And again, that would be such a cute scene of, like, again, Lisa Ann Walter and all of the maids. And they're like, oh, look at the baby. Look how beautiful. Give it to the mom. I wish we had a camera. And everybody's like, what the fuck's a camera? And Sean Pierce Brosnan is just in the doorway, just like, God damn it. It must be the devil. Call a priest. Sean takes a break. He comes home and he goes upstairs and he hears singing, beautiful singing. And he comes in to Chris rocking Naomi in the nursery while Tisha takes a nap. And Chris is just the picture of motherhood holding this baby. And Sean, his heart warms seeing it because he's an Irish lad. He wants a big, you know, them Irish boys, they want 6 kids. And he loves seeing it. And then, of course, he's like, God damn it. And so he goes to his bedroom and he starts drinking heavily Irish whiskey. He is struggling. I understand completely. Like, you're married to this bitch and then all of a sudden they're nice and all of, like, an abuser. Because Christina was abusive to him. And now your abuser's nice and winning people over and you catch yourself kind of falling in love with him. Like, I would also be like, I need to drink. We have to drink and just hang out with horses. That's all we can do at this point. And let's go back to Chris as she's holding the baby and she's looking out the window. The baby burped and Chris grinned as she watched Elizabeth run across the lawn to meet Harry Gentry. Remember the one that threw the mud ball and they had that cute little moment. It appeared spring at Riviana was affecting everyone. Suddenly, Chris's smile froze as she continued to stare at the young couple. Realizing she was clasping the baby to her chest, she forced herself to place the infant on the bed. Quickly, she turned back to the window and stared at Beth and Harry. Beth and Harry. The hair on her arms rose up. She felt a chill race down her spine. She shook her head as if the action could deny that crazy thought. Beth and Harry. Elizabeth and Harry Gentry? Elizabeth Gentry? Her great-grandmother? Chris's mouth opened in shock. Was it possible? Was Beth the ancestor who started all of those horrible rumors of insanity? Could Beth Madsen, the young suffragette, Riviana's own hoyden, possibly be the person great-grandmother Elena was always quoting when she lectured on how a proper lady should conduct herself? Elena's mother? The one named Elizabeth? Her great-great-grandmother Elizabeth? Chris covered her mouth with her hands and forced herself to blink as she continued to watch the teenagers. If Beth marries Harry, then she's Elizabeth Gentry, Chris thought. And I remember hearing that Elizabeth's husband was a lawyer. And if Beth was her great-great-grandmother, then Christina was her aunt. Her eyes snapped open as her lower jaw dropped in shock. It all made sense. That's why she looked like the woman. Dear God, she was related to these people. It was insanity and she was living it. Y'all, Christina's her great whatever fucking aunt. Elizabeth, the little sister, is her grandmother, the one that's so terrified of insanity running through the family, and you wonder why? And then does that make Sean? Because Sean and Christina are married. So is she fallen for her great uncle? I guess so. But I mean, it's not blood, it's marriage, but it's still kind of like, on paper, it doesn't look too awesome. On paper. Because if they have a baby, is she like giving birth to her like great grandmother? I don't know. That's too much. We're not getting that nitpicky, but it's still kind of like in the back of your head. You're just like, wait a second. Tisha says, hey, I would like to take Naomi home now. And her husband Eli's like, yeah, we would like to be a family. We appreciate the generosity, but girl, like, this crazy white bitch, like, keep holding our baby. We need to get home. I don't blame him. It is very odd. Chris confesses to Beth. She's like, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm from the 1980s. I want to go home. And Beth is like, you are fucking crazy. Again, everybody's like, she is insane. And it's like that Dave Chappelle thing of like, when you're trying to say the truth and everybody thinks you're crazy and it makes you sound more crazy by going, I'm not crazy. We cut back to Christina and Judson. Evil Christina and Judson are arguing over money because she was supposed to have taken all of Sean's like money or something, or like some tax thing. She was supposed to have a shit ton of money for them to live off of while they were in hiding. She didn't get it because she's a stupid bitch. Judson is like, I gotta go home. I gotta like go get money from home. I'll be right back. And as he's going home, he sees Christina riding a horse, but it's not Christina. It's Chris. Okay, picture it. Chris is upset with Elizabeth. She gets on a horse, goes for a ride. She's like, I'm distraught. I need to run. So she's out on the property riding a horse. Judson's the next door neighbor. He's coming down to go home. He sees literally what he thinks is Christina on a horse. And he's like, didn't I just leave her at a cabin? What the fuck? And he's like, Christina, what are you doing? Y'all, it is a fucking mess. But it's about to get even wilder. Hang with me. We're not even like halfway through this book. He goes to Lynette, gets money, and leaves. Because he's like, I got to see if Chris is even at that cabin. Okay? Because he's like, I just saw her on a horse. Who the fuck is that? Anyways, Chris watches horses breed. And that's a common romance novel. I've read a few books of like women watching horses fuck and getting turned on by the animalistic of it. And I grew up with horses. I have cows. Watching animals have sex is not something that I would list as a turn on, but I guess in the 1800s, Judson shows up him and Chris kind of have this side moment. I forgot kind of the context, but he accuses Chris. He's like, you're an imposter. Christina's back at the cabin. I don't know who the fuck you are. And Chris is like, well, at least somebody knows I'm not Christina. That night, Chris and Sean, she's in his office and they're kind of having a nice moment and they kiss. But Chris tells Sean, I'm not her. Because she's like, does he like me because he thinks I'm like his wife? I'm not his wife. It's a lot of confusion. It's a lot of imposter syndrome, literally, figuratively. But like in this sweet little tender moment in his office, they do kiss and they're both so confused as to why they like it. And y'all, as they pull apart from their kiss and she whispers, under him, I'm not her. Guess who shows up in the doorway? Christina! Christina and Judson are in the doorway. Can you imagine Sean right now? Imagine Sean. He just kissed this abusive ex-wife who says it's not him, and he looks over and there's Christina. He's like, what the fuck? Christina shows up. She's like, who the fuck is that? And Judson's like, I told you. Like, it is the most climactic moment that happens halfway through this book, and we have a whole nother half of the book. Anyways, of course, it's thunder, it's lightning, the blinding white light, ka-chow, ka-chow. Sean wakes up. He hears odd music, and it has the detail that Whitney Houston's Didn't We Almost Have It All is playing on the stereo. Sean is in the 1980s. He went forward in time. What? Like when I was reading this and that happened, again, it happens like right about here if you're like watching the video, about halfway. And I was like, what is going to happen now? Sean's in the 80s. He's going to get eaten alive. Oh no. How is this going to work? Okay. Whitney Houston's playing. He's like, where's that lady? Again, what a wonderful way to wake up in a new time, though. You hear Whitney Houston playing. Could have been Kenny Rogers. Oh, thank God it wasn't Kenny Rogers. Chris is there too. Chris returned because they were embraced together when this all happened. And so Chris is there. They're at the Riviera, 1988. Okay. He felt like he had been physically abused. His legs were shaking and perspiration was slipping down the center of his back. Using the partially painted foyer wall to support him, Sean dragged his eyes from the empty room. A restaurant? But where's my home then? Where's everything? It can't all just be gone. I forgot to mention, Chris is like, because he wakes up and he's like, where's the furniture? And she's like, so this is 1988 and my brother's turned it into a restaurant. Let me make you a glass. She makes him a glass of sherry. Again, I've never had sherry in my whole life. And every book is like a glass of milk and a glass of sherry. Ugh. Maybe on the Patreon, I'll drink a glass of warm milk and a glass of sherry and let you know how refreshed I feel. She wanted to hug him, to hold him close and wrap him in her arms, almost as if she would comfort a child. She wanted to brush back the black hair that fell over his forehead, to kiss his temple and tell him that everything was going to be all right. But she knew no amount of comforting would take away the pain that was so evident in his expression and voice. He was confused and shocked, suffering from a terrible loss. Hadn't she gone through that herself? What wouldn't she have given for someone to have held her and told her that she didn't have to handle the nightmare alone? Knowing she was right, Chris reached out to him, but before she could embrace him, before she could offer support and consolation, the front door was flung open. Both she and Sean jumped in fright as a crowd of people, her friends, burst into the foyer and immediately surrounded them, laughing, shouting, bending their heads to kiss her cheek. That goddamn surprise birthday party. It's like the worst thing to happen. Like, you just went back in time and like Chris is like trying to comfort this 1800s man, and then the door opens and everybody's like, surprise, happy birthday. And it's like, oh my God, this is the worst. Everybody's like, oh, did we interrupt something with your boyfriend here? And she's like, oh yeah, he flew in. And then Sean's like, what do you mean I flew in? I can't fly. And she's like, shut the fuck up, Sean. Oh, it's like the worst. But again, very comical. Again, this would make a great part in the movie. Her brother shows up and her brother's like, I'm Jack. Who are you? And her brother's a big Rolling Stones fan. And so he's like, oh, I need to be a big brother and like scout you out, man. And Chris is like, oh, he's a big Stones fan. And Jack's like, oh, you like the Stones? And poor Sean's like, sure, I like Stones. Again, just these little minor details of like, that would truly happen. They're mingling at this party the best they can. Sean's trying to just like drink his sherry in the corner and not have a mental breakdown. He's kind of eyeing how the women are dressed and the men, and it's the 80s. So he's just like, oh my God, everybody's dressed insane. And he doesn't know where the music's coming from. It's crazy. Anyways, we have this. The woman stopped directly in front of him and let her eyes roam over him. Her gaze was bold, yet not offensive. Sean felt she was assessing him. Her grin widened as she shifted the tray to rest it on her hip and loudly asked, who is this man? Talk about a fashion statement. I love it. Spinning around, Chris squealed with pleasure and rose on tiptoe to kiss the dark-haired woman on the cheek. Danny! Pulling back from Christine, Danny extended the tray to Sean and smiled. Try one of these phyllo things Elaine made. Everyone's raving about them. Still grinning at him, she said to Chris, introduce us, Chris. Sean watched as Chris grimaced. Danielle Rowe, this is Sean O'Mara. Danielle is my oldest friend. Danny's smile widened. Not oldest, Mr. O'Mara. She meant dearest. Sean bowed slightly. How do you do, Mrs. Rowe? Danny's eyes widened. I'm doing fairly well, I think. She glanced at Chris. Very polite. Knowing Danny would say anything that came into her head, Chris nodded hers. We'll talk later, she promised, giving her childhood friend a familiar foreboding look. Whoa, sorry. Danny goes on to ask Sean what he does for a job. She asks, are you an architecture, Sean? Your name sounds familiar. He automatically shook his head. I raise horses, thoroughbreds. Nodding, Danny interrupted. Then that explains the way you're dressed. Actually, it looks good on you. Danny! Chris wished she could stuff her friend's mouth with food to shut her up. Sean, looking down to his black trousers and white shirt, wondered what the woman was talking about. Danny continued, I swear if I see one more man in an Armani suit, I'm gonna scream. And they've done the 30s to death. Long jackets, shoulder pads, you can land a plane on. Seeing Chris's startled expression, she explained, the newest trend right now in men's fashion is period clothing like Sean's here. Once again, she surveyed his clothing, this time with a critical eye. Baggy pants, suspenders, collarless white shirt made of a really good quality cotton. Have you ever thought of modeling? He blinked several times. I beg your pardon? Don't be silly, Danny. She looked up to Sean and explained, my friend's in the fashion business. She automatically critiques everyone she meets. The dark-haired woman shrugged. I can see the black and white glossy. Sean, dressed like he is, standing in front of a horse at the racetrack, giving the camera a drop-dead far-away stare. She took a deep, regretful breath. Oh, well, it was just a thought. Listen, you two, if Elaine catches me letting her little philo things freeze up, she'll find a way to run me through her cuisine art. I'll come back later and we'll really talk. Again, she smiled at Sean. So you're from Philadelphia? She shook her head as if the idea was amusing. Anyways, so Sean is very handsome, again, Pierce Brosnan, and he's in this period piece clothing, and so everybody's like, oh, he's a model. Chris is like, we got to go home to Philly because, she's not from Virginia. And so not only does she put Sean in a car, which terrifies him, she puts him in a plane. She puts this poor man, she traumatizes him with a car and then puts his ass in a plane with not a drop of liquor or a prescription, not a lorazepam, nothing. And he, of course, is having a goddamn panic attack in that plane. It's a great scene. But he is panicking. And I'm like, girl, you couldn't have gave him like a Benadryl, something to knock him out? I mean, he's from the 1800s. Like, I'm pretty sure a Flintstones vitamin would knock him out. Well, I say that as if in the Victorian era, they didn't have cocaine tablets for children. Who am I kidding? So on the plane, she's trying to distract him, obviously. They start discussing the family tree. Okay, because obviously now Sean's like, oh, you were from the future. And she's like, I've been fucking trying to tell you that. And they try to discuss the family tree and the inheritance. So Sean says he left Elizabeth, the Riviana, if anything happened to him. And she, remember, is Chris's great-great-grandmother. So that's why the Riviana falls into Chris and Jack's inheritance, her and her brother, and why he owns it and is trying to restore it. She's like, oh, you left this. So that makes sense timeline-wise, I guess. And then Sean's like, does that mean I never went back? And so it's like, ooh, what happens to Sean? He goes to Chris's little apartment. She's got an answering machine. She's got a trundle bed. He is like, wow, look at the future. And I think it's funny that he's so impressed with an answering machine. And that is so archaic now. Like, again, at the time, I'm like, I guess you could impress an 1800s man with an answering machine, but you could traumatize a Generation Z kid with an answering machine of like, I had to go home and like physically press a button and check my messages. And it's like, yeah, when you came home from a vacation, you had a lot of messages to go through and you had to write them down on a piece of paper. It was wild. It's been a big day, but Chris is so horny for Sean. She says that it's been 15 months since she last had relations. God bless her. And she's just ovulating and climbing the wall, if you will. And she doesn't want to traumatize Sean with modern sex, which is a valid concern. Because she's like, oh, if a trundle bed blows his mind, oh, 1980s sex, that might be much for him. He might not know what a lot of things are. Chris has to explain a bathroom to him. Like right now in the book, we're kind of having that fun montage of Sean learning 1980s things. It reminds me of in Brendan Fraser's George of the Jungle. He goes to New York, or does he go to New York or does he go to San Diego? I forget where he goes. He goes to a big city. And remember, he's like trying on like the Calvin Klein and the Armani suits, and he gets coffee and he gets donuts and he watches TV. Very that montage. I will admit there are a few pages torn out of this novel. That comes with the territory of getting used vintage novels. But I think it's just more montage because the front and like the last page of the torn is, I think he's just kind of going over like the news and learning like what a TV is. And we have this little tidbit. He's reading the newspaper and he sees like one of those Ann Landers columns with like the horoscope, and you could write a letter in and ask for advice. And why do people write to this woman and ask her to solve such personal problems? He wanted to look at her again. He wanted to make sure the gold flecks in her eyes were really there. I don't know, Sean. I suppose people are lonely. I know people are lonely, she affirmed. Or maybe it appeals to them telling about their problems and seeing them in print without the fear of being found out. Again, she shrugged. You see some pretty strange letters in there. She could feel his gaze on her, and Chris found herself warming under his scrutiny. Talk about confusion. Any man who read Ann Landers on a Sunday afternoon thought the Soviets were a new tribe of Indians and was a Republican who'd vote against nuclear arms had to be his weight in gold. And she had him. The hitch was what to do with them. So again, I guess during that ripped scene, he learned about the Soviets and thought they were a tribe of Native Americans. And he is a Republican man because, again, Republicans stood for something different in the 1800s. And he would vote against nuclear arms, you know. And he read Ann Landers on Sunday. That is a nice man. Sean tries to treat this like a trip, a vacation. He's like, okay, I'll go back like Chris did. Chris returned. And he's like, I'll go back eventually. Let's treat this like a vacation. So he's enjoying learning things. He's enjoying learning the TV and VHSs and horoscopes. Again, very George of the Jungle. They take a little day trip around Philly, and she learns to appreciate Philly through his eyes because remember, he's from the 1800s. He's given her a tour of Philly. He's like, that was the first this. Over there was like a printing press. I went to school at this college. He knows more about Philly than she does. Like all she can do is be like, there's a bagel shop. I don't know. They have a really great time teaching each other. It's again another cute montage of he's teaching her the past. She's teaching him the future. And they're like in the same, they both grew up in Philly. So it's really cute actually. It's kind of like when you get with your grandma and you go down like your old hometown and she's like, this used to be orange groves all the way back over here. And you're like, well, now it's a mall. He does a clothes montage. They go shopping. And of course, he's gorgeous. So he looks amazing in everything. Oh, we love a clothes montage. I'm sure since it's 1988, he probably definitely had to try on like a Miami Vice look. He probably had to try on like a Wolf of Wall Street. He probably tried on like a very hip Beastie Boys kind of look. Oh, I bet it was great. They have a movie night and she's so in love. She's really having fun with Sean because remember she was single and then this man from the 1800s showed up and she's like, let's watch a movie. They watch, I think they watch Lady and the Tramp. Yeah, they watch Lady and the Tramp because he's like, there's that spaghetti. And she's like, good, Sean, that is spaghetti. He's learning. While they are having an adorable little movie night, we cut to this woman waking up and everybody's looking at her like she's crazy because she's in weird clothes. Y'all, evil Christina is in 1988. Christina's in 1988 too. What the fuck? It's one thing for Sean to come back. What the fuck are we going to do with Christina's ass? And she's in Richmond, Virginia. She ain't in Philly. So we have this 1800s woman in Richmond, Virginia in like a hoop skirt walking around. It's wild. She's going like downtown and of course there's a lot of sex workers and they're kind of eyeing her like what the fuck in the period piece is happening here. And she is a clever woman. Christina's a bitch, but she's clever. She's smart and she kind of picks up like how to look at these women and assert dominance. You know, she's not a fool. She knows how to handle a room. And she meets this man and they kind of talk and he's obviously picking her up for sex work and she understands the guys. I mean, it's the oldest profession. It's not hard to understand what transaction is being had. She's a clever woman. Remember, her dream job was to be a sex worker in New Orleans. Anyways, as he spoke, Christina smelled alcohol in his breath. It wasn't unpleasant, just a reminder that she still didn't know his name. Who are you? She asked, presenting her hand to him. He looked down at her extended fingers as if puzzled, and then chuckled when realized what she intended. Seeing the hurt look on her face, he raised her hand to his lips and placed a kiss upon it. As he lifted his head, his eyes sparkled almost unnaturally. His pupils dilated so they looked almost black. My name's Bobby Ray Everett. She smiled. It was a good name. Finally, she'd found a gentleman in this insane world she'd entered. I'd be most grateful for your assistance tonight, Bobby Ray. she trilled, bestowing on him her most coquettish look. He shook his head, not believing his luck in finding her. Come on, Marie. Let's get out of here before it starts raining again. He took her arm and led her down the street. Christine couldn't help giving the prostitutes a superior look as she passed them by. Let them settle for the dregs of society, she thought, still smarting from their ridicule. She, now Marie Delacroix, had attracted a gentleman, a protector. Had she not presented them her back, Christina would have seen their looks of pity. Uh-oh, what the fuck's about to happen to Christine? I don't think Bobby Ray's a nice man just because he has a real big name. Chris has to go to work. You know, she's like, I got a job. So she's kind of, it's like a mom leaving her child, a latchkey kid. She's like, I'm going to turn the TV on. This is a phone. Type these numbers and I will pick up. Don't answer the door. Do you remember how to use the microwave? And he's like, yeah, I got it. And it's pretty cute because she leaves and he turns on the TV and there's a talking horse. And he's like, oh my God, in the 80s, do horses talk? Remember, he's such a horse girl. And he's like, oh, do horses talk in the 80s? And then he's like, oh no, this is Mr. Like, he's like, he realizes Mr. Ed obviously is a fake talking horse because he's like, oh. But that's still a fun concept. So he's enjoying watching Mr. Ed. Men are calling the house and he lets them go to the answering machine. And they're leaving a lot of messages. And he's kind of like, oh my God, the women of this time are so aggressive. They are taking on all of these suitors. He's like, damn, Chris, you were getting around. And they're all like business. Like it's all news stuff. And so, but he thinks like she's just the town tart. Sean, watching Mr. Ed, makes him worry about his horses. He's like, oh no, who's going to take care of Celtic Star? Who's going to take care of the baby? My ponies. Chris is at work. She gets a promotion, kind of. She is going to star Philly Live. She's getting a chance to have her talk show, and it's going to come on right at the same time as Oprah. She's going to be in the big leagues. Philly Live is at 4:00 against Oprah and Magnum PI. Can you compete with Tom Selleck? Girl, you better have some interesting news if I'm going to have to take my eyes off of Tom Selleck. Okay. She calls to check on Sean and he feels like a pet. Remember, this is a man that had thoroughbreds, a mansion. He was an independent man and now he feels like a fucking pet. He's like, I hate this. And he also hates the 80s. Quote, no one had the time for grace, charm, and patience. Ain't that the truth? Sean calls the operator and he's trying to uncover the past because he wants to know what happened to his estate. So he calls the operator, and back then, if you're younger than the operator days, you could call an operator and be like, can you get me the museum in Richmond, Virginia? And they'd be like, sure. And they would get you like, they would put you through the like museum to Richmond, Virginia or something like that, you know? Christina, evil Christina, immediately understands what's going on. She immediately catches that she time traveled and she says that her and Bobby Ray are, quote, a good match. And it's like, yeah, because y'all are fucking insane and evil. And we'll get to Bobby Ray's evilness. But just know Christina is not a damsel in distress, okay? Sean and Chris are on the phone. Because remember, she's at work. And he says, am I to understand you'll be doing this every day? Well, yeah, I thought you understood that. Every day you will speak on the television, like you did today. Although she was tired, she would once more attempt to make him understand. Not every day, Sean, but most. Why are you upset? I'm not upset. He walked back and forth in front of the window, reminding her of a caged animal. It's just that I would be interested in why it takes so long to prepare for a job that lasts than a minute. She found her shoulder muscles tensing in reaction to his words. Sean, she said his name patiently. There is a great deal of preparation for even 1 minute of airtime. I know it's hard for you to understand this, but try to think of it on your terms. How long did you prepare for a berth at the Riviera? Immediately, she could see that she had chosen the wrong example. His eyes narrowed, and he raised his chin an inch higher. I don't see how the two can be compared. Faced with the stubbornness the Irish are so famous for, she shrugged. Just tell me how long. Each mare was a separate case. Each one was different. She wasn't getting anywhere. Never mind. Take my word that my job entails a great deal of preparation, and it will take more once I begin hosting Philly Live. Yes, he said. Your work. It appears everyone has a job in this time. Somewhere to go, work to be done. Well, almost everyone. Be patient, Sean. You've only just come to this time. Don't you think it's only natural that it'll take time to adjust? Adjust? She nodded. I don't believe it'll take a great deal of time to find employment. Even in this time, a man willing to work must account for something. She wasn't sure how to explain it to him. He does, Sean, but there are a lot of people out of work. You'll need documents, a social security number. Raising her hands in gesture of futility, she shrugged her shoulders. I'm not sure how to go about getting you one. You don't even have a birth certificate. He had looked tortured by her statement. I will find a job. Someone will hire me, even without those documents. And that is so true. I brought this up to my friend of like, I've never, again, y'all may have, but I have never seen a time travel thing where you need a birth certificate and a social security card at the least. At the least, you need a license or something. You need identification. And Sean just is existing. Kind of. He physically exists, but not like legally. And that's a good point. He can't get a job. And he really, 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 really wants to work. And remember, this was back in his day. You could just go up somewhere and go, I'll shine your shoes every day. Hire me. And they go, okay. Chris's career is taking off. She is doing Philly Live. But Sean's pride is wounded because it's hard for modern men to let the woman be the breadwinner. Could you imagine a 1800s man? And he's really frustrated because he wants to work and he can't find work. Like he'll go to places and they'll just be like, okay, great. Can I have your license? Do you have any documentation that we could 'cause we have to pay you, even just for bank and stuff. They're like, okay, we still have to send you a paycheck. Can you give your social security? And he's like, I don't have it. And so they can't hire him. Chris is upset because she has her job on one hand that she has worked her ass off for, but she's fallen in love with Sean and he's very frustrated and she's afraid he's going to go back in time. She doesn't know how the time travel works. And she's begging anybody who will listen metaphorically, like God or whoever, of just please give me more time. Please don't take him back. Please don't take this man back. And you're kind of sad. She is in a really stressful spot because she can't enjoy her work, but she also can't enjoy Sean because she doesn't know if any second he's going to go back to the 1800s and he is mad. Oh, it's a lot of drama. Sean gets a job, y'all. You knew he would. There's a lot of undocumented workers out there. And he works for $3.50 an hour. And again, this is 1988 and $3.50 an hour was below minimum wage. And I'm like, it's still $3.50 an hour now for a dishwasher in most places. Wow. Eggs are $10, but it's still $3.50 to be a dishwasher in most restaurants. Okay. Anyways, he's a dishwasher in a restaurant. It's a typical undocumented labor kind of job. And he goes to a store and he buys frozen dinners. He buys frozen dinners and he thinks the concept, we all do. When we all saw frozen dinners pop off, we were like, this is amazing. I get this meal and I just pop it in the microwave. And now, of course, we know they're hot fucking garbage. And he's about to learn that. But he's proudly putting his little lean cuisines, his little, what are the ones with the penguins that the kids eat? Kid cuisines on the table and arranging it. And he's like, I provided dinner, damn it. Danny comes over. Him and Chris are having an awkward dinner because the food tastes like ass. And Danny shows up. Chris leaves to go do an undercover gig. She's like, I'm working on this undercover thing for work. I gotta go. So she leaves Sean and Danny at the house because she's kind of like, Danny, can you watch Sean? He's from a different town and he doesn't really know a lot of stuff, whatever. But Chris's undercover gig is actually a man getting her a birth certificate for Sean illegally. She's, through her connections, found an illegal way to get, well, I guess the only, outside of giving birth, the way to get a birth certificate. And it's going to cost her $5,000. In 1988, what is that now? Like 10 grand? It's a lot of money. We cut to evil Christina and Bobby Ray. He's a cocaine dealer. He's a cocaine dealer, y'all. This is the most chaotic book ever. It's so good. And I hope I am painting the right journey here of, okay, Chris is doing, cut to like picture Chris is getting an illegal birth certificate for $5 grand. Sean and Danny are in the kitchen talking about Chris, and he's very frustrated, and Danny's trying to talk him off the ledge. And then we cut to evil Christina in Richmond, Virginia, sitting in this man's living room watching him do cocaine and deal it. Oh, God. Sean is picking up litter as a job as well. And it's very degrading, and he hates it. But he tries to buck himself up, and he's like, I just need more patience. I will, honest good work, I will rise the ranks. Remember when we all thought that? Remember when we all thought that's how we got ahead in life? And here we have Chris she's stressed, y'all. She's just stressed. She's afraid that she's going to lose her job with this deal, like this birth certificate deal. Because if it gets caught that she's like buying an illegal birth certificate, her whole entire career is ruined. Her life is ruined. So it's a huge risk. And like Sean's mad at her because he's frustrated and she's stressed. So here we have this. Taking a deep breath, she replaced the receiver and stared at the phone. Right now, her life was too complicated to figure out. There was no easy solutions. She was about to start a new show, and the responsibility for its success would sit right on her shoulders. But she was still expected to handle the entertainment segment of the news until management made its decision. She was living with a man from the 19th century, and even though she thought she was falling in love, he was barely speaking to her. On top of all that, she was seriously contemplating, placing everything in jeopardy by committing a felony. Maybe if she could just get through each day until things calmed down, she might make it. But that didn't settle what she was going to do tonight. A little voice inside her head said, not everyone can have it all. There are always sacrifices. She shook her head and walked towards makeup. Now was not the time for an attack of the conscience. First things first, squaring her shoulders, she walked down the hall and prepared to fight. She would not let them make her up like an evangelist's wife. She was having a fight with the makeup artist who was wanting to do like a Tammy Faye look, and Chris was like, I got one crisis at a time, and right now we're going to focus on me not walking out looking like Tammy Faye Baker. Oh my God, like the stress. Oh my God, the stress. I don't know what I would do in her shoes. I don't know. Like, imagine me taking off with this YouTube channel and like it gets like picked up by something, and my husband goes back in time. I don't know. And I'm like, fuck, Cody's in the 1800s. I don't know what to do. And I've got my job, and then I've got this, and then I need to commit a felony to like get Cody back or something like that. I don't know. Like, it wouldn't work in my situation, but y'all know what I mean. Like, and then on top of it, it's like someone wants to do my makeup to look like, Trixie Mattel on TV. And it's like, not now. Fuck. She goes, to get the birth certificate, and Sean follows her, and he doesn't trust Chris. He doesn't see what happens, but he kind of follows her doing this shady business deal. And he's like, I don't know who this woman is. We just met a few days ago, and we're from different times. I don't know who she is. And so right now he's feeling like, can he trust her? She won't tell him what she's doing. She comes home. What are you looking for? He quietly asked. She spun around and clutched at the long, silky collar of her blouse. My God, you frightened me. I thought you were in bed. Like a good child. Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about, Sean? She brushed past him and walked down the hallway to the kitchen. He followed. I'm talking about your attitude. Perhaps you were looking for the woman you once were, back at the Riviana. Here in this time, I think you disappoint even yourself. She stopped at the counter and clutched at its edge. I beg your pardon? Her voice held more than a hint of indignation. I think it's time we have a discussion both of us have been avoiding. He stood still, his chin held high and a look of determination on his face. Please, Sean, you wouldn't believe the day I've had. We'll do this tomorrow. What was wrong with him? Just as we'll go out tomorrow. She nodded and held up a hand in supplication. That's right. We'll go out. We'll even have this talk tomorrow night. No. Excuse me? The very last thing she needed tonight was a confrontation. Why couldn't he leave well enough alone? He leaned a hand on the counter and looked down at her. Listen to yourself, Christine. You sound like a parent trying to pacify a child. We'll do this tomorrow. We'll go out tomorrow. Be a good boy, Sean, and leave Mother alone. She snapped her head up. What is wrong with you? Where would you like me to begin, Christine? Shall we discuss how I've been stripped of everything, including my self-esteem? She shook her head and backed away from him. I can't do this tonight, Sean. Please, if you only knew what I've done. He pursued her down the hall. Oh, but I do. You see, I followed you. You what? You heard me. Since you refused to protect yourself, I made the decision to do it for you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sean O'Mara. Weren't you the one that toasted me and said you wouldn't abuse my trust? He was breathing heavily as he kept his pace with her. His earlier anger was fully renewed. Trust? You actually have the brashness to speak of trust after meeting with that man tonight. How many others are there? Who else did you meet, Christine? The number of men that this calls to this house is staggering. What do they all want with you? She pushed at his chest. Those are business calls. I think you'd better be careful about what you're implying. I know exactly what I'm saying. It was simpler, wasn't it, in my time? He brushed back the hair from his forehead. Even the short while you were there, you knew right from wrong. Here, you seem to forget the proper order of things. I haven't done anything wrong. She spotted her purse on the table and quickly looked away. What is the proper order of things, Sean? This male-female thing, isn't it? Would it be proper if I had obeyed you and stayed home tonight? He turned on the lights in the front room and looked back at her. A little more honesty and a little less condescension would have been proper. She moved into the living room. He might as well have been waving a red flag to incense her. She couldn't back down. I can't believe you're saying this. I've done everything I could to make this easier for you. Perhaps what's really bothering you is you expect me to continue holding your hand. She could see the muscles moving in his cheeks as he grounded his teeth together. Ignoring that, she continued. I had no choice in the matter. I came back to a job that demanded my attention and to a once-in-a-lifetime chance to advance my career. I never ignored you. I tried. You mothered me until I almost lost my own identity. Mothered you? Chris mimicked him. You don't know what you're saying. He didn't want her to finish her sentence. Who chose my clothes? But I thought, who told me how to think? What television programs to watch? Which books to read? Now, wait a minute. That was for your own good. I didn't want... It was her turn to backpedal as he relentlessly pursued her around the room. Who told me I couldn't get a job of my own? Who explained away the last 100 years as women's struggles against male supremacy? Who the hell believed that? He glared at her, daring her to deny any of it. Who has tried to mold me into something I'm not? And who, god damn it, has been treating me like her own personal pet? Her damn trained animal to be rewarded with a smile and a pat on the head if I perform correctly. When he exhaled, his breath was a long, drawn-out shudder. It's over. All of it. I won't allow you to control me any longer. She stared at him, blinking furiously. Never would she admit to this stubborn Irishman that a few of his remarks had hit home. Instead, she thought back to what she had done only an hour ago. And for what? Because she was foolish enough to think that she was in love? God, what is it that makes women believe in the happy ever after ending? Do we never grow up, thought Chris? Are we the eternal optimists even in the face of doom? Now it's your turn to listen, Mr. O'Mara, she ordered, and she pushed him into a chair. She paced back and forth before him until she made her decision. Quickly walking back to the foyer, she picked up her purse. She threw it onto his lap and smirked when he grunted in response. Open it. You've made some pretty serious charges against me. I want you to see what I've been up to tonight. He hesitated to follow her order. Go ahead. I know it isn't proper for a 19th century gentleman to open a lady's purse, but you're not in the 19th century any longer, Sean. This is the 20th century, and I just gave you permission. She watched him lift the leather flap and open her purse. The yellow envelope, she instructed. Slowly, he opened it and withdrew a folded light green paper with an embossed seal. Raising his head, he said in an unsteady voice, I don't understand. A birth certificate? There's no name on it. She leaned down so her face was closer to his. She wanted him to see the anger in her eyes. It's yours. I bought it for you. Tonight. That's what I was doing in that dinner. $5,000 so you could be legal to get on with your life. Do you think I've been blind? That I haven't seen the pain in your eyes? And I don't know the loss that you felt? Do you have any idea what I've done? What I've put in jeopardy? You talk about honor and integrity as if only a man could lose it. She straightened, refusing to let him see her cry. God damn you, Sean O'Mara. Before she could even think of what she was doing, she slapped him soundly on the cheek. He had hurt her so terribly she wanted to strike back. Horrified, she stared down at him, aware that her fingers stung and her tears burned at the corner of her eyes. My God, to be reduced to this. Damn you to hell. He looked up at her, blinking back the rage that threatened to blind him. Surely I'm there now, he said, a deadly undertone to his voice. My only comfort is that I'm not condemned to remain here forever. I'll find a new place to live in the morning. She felt as if he had returned the blow. Then go. Her lips, even the muscles in her face, trembled with emotion. Take your stupid Irish pride and leave. Just remember that it was your own decision. You're capable of making them after all. Christine ran her fingers through her hair and turned down the hallway. If she could just get to her room before the tears reduced her to a blubbering idiot. Christine, we aren't finished. Oh, yes, we are. Quite finished. And with a mixture of sorrow and relief, she closed the door of her bedroom behind her. Okay, let's take a break real quick. Woo! Y'all, I hope I did that well enough. That was an insane fight. Again, time travel. I've never seen people address these issues in a time travel novel. Birth certificate, being mothered, all of these things. And not even time travel, just like a fish out of water scenario. This is so realistic. This is exactly how it would play out. Exactly. An 18th century man that's just going to sit at home and watch Mr. Ed. A girl that's trying to do her career. And she makes this is exact. Constance, you write the hell out of a book, girl. All right, but let's not lose momentum. All right, we just had that huge fight. She's getting undressed in her bedroom. She's crying. She's obviously very upset. Her bedroom door is opened. Sean stood in the doorway, the light from the hall silhouetting him. He didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there, watching her, watch him. You were right, he whispered. This is a man-woman thing, just as you said. You told me what to wear, how to think, even how to feel. For the first time, he crossed that threshold and came into her room. She couldn't find the voice to tell him to leave. In truth, her pounding heart raced as she listened to his hypnotic whisper. As he stood in front of her, his breath touched her face when he continued, There is one thing you can't control, Christine, any more than I can. That was our problem. We tried too damn hard. He reached out and gently wiped a tear away from her cheek. At his touch, she momentarily pulled back her head until she felt the soft brush of his fingers. Unwilling, her face turned into his palm. You said things. She couldn't stop the burning in her eyes, nor forget his words. Shh. He drew his finger to her mouth to silence her. We've both said things, he whispered in a low, soothing voice that held a hint of his Irish background. Together, we started something over 100 years ago. Lass, it's time. Y'all gonna have to pay some money to see what happens next. It is, let me see. First off, wow. Again, the writing in this, I feel like I'm in the room with them. I'm in this chair in the corner just like, let me see here. Okay, they do have a sex scene. It's not fade to black. This is pretty raunchy. Okay, so yeah, for $3 you can get a steamy scene, or for $7 you can get more. But if you just want steamy scenes, we will do this book, but this is kind of the only one outside of Christina, riding Judson up and down in that cabin. but we'll also do some Desert Captive. But let's get on with this book. So they finally have sex. They have 1800s 1988 sex. Oh God, I can't wait to read it. Ooh. Afterwards, through her sacrifice, $5,000 to get him a birth certificate so he can be independent, Sean finally realizes he's in love. You love to see it. Oh my God, I love this book, y'all. She's on air. She takes him to work so he can kind of see what she does. And while she's on air and she's like, "Good morning and welcome to Philly Live," he whispers to her, "I love you." And she's like, "What?" Like, she's on air. Like, oh my God, this is so great. I wish this was a movie. But he whispers, "I love you," while she's on air. And she kind of doesn't really hear it. She's like, "What?" She needs to go to the racetrack to cover races, I guess. And he's like, "The racetrack with horses? Can I come?" He's so cute. He's a little horse girl. Sean, you would love Pink Pony Club. She teaches him how to drive, kind of. He does okay at it, but he's very scared of it. Sean is at the track. Y'all, he's a star. He knows okay, yeah. He sees a horse, and through his horse autism is like, "Where's this horse from?" And his jockey and his owner is like, "Oh, we got it from Virginia. It's a long line." And he's like, Can I see the papers real quick?" Y'all, his horse, Celtic Star, that's his great-great-grand horse. He could spot Celtic Star's little babies because that's how good he is with horses. He was like, "I know that form. I know that breed. I know that color. Let me see those papers." And he's like, "I have to buy this horse. Oh my God, Chris, please, can we buy this horse?" And she's like, "That's a thoroughbred." No. But he's a star. Like, he talks to the horse responds to him. He is the horse whisperer. Do y'all remember that movie? Do we need to watch that on the Patreon? No, that's a sad movie. I don't want to watch that. But remember that movie? And they're on E, like Entertainment Tonight. Him and Chris, because Chris is a star and he's very handsome and he's like killing it at this racetrack. And so they're on Entertainment Tonight, and guess who's watching? Evil Christina. She sees Sean and Chris on the TV and she's like, "I know where they are. They're in Philly. I gotta get to Philly. Oh, they're those fucking bastards." Like, oh my God. Book is insane. We're almost done. This is kind of like, here we go. We're at the tip of the roller coaster. We're about to go down. And y'all do not know what is coming. Get ready. Chris knew the moment she had begun losing him. It was after the van had left the racetrack. All the races had been run, and she had linked her arm through Sean as they'd walked through the stables. They'd been talking about horses, his very first, when he decided to get into breeding. They'd been enjoying reminiscing when they'd come upon a group of horses being led toward a large trailer. "What's going on?" Chris asked a young groom. The teenager shrugged his shoulders. "They didn't turn out. Had their chance, though. There's going to be an auction block next week." "They're being sold?" Sean was curiously looking over the group. It was in that moment, when his arm stiffened under her hand, that she began to lose him. She felt as if surely that she had felt his love the night before. She was losing him, not to another woman, not even to the past. She found it incredible that it was to a horse by the name of Robbie's Foley. She didn't understand at the time that this particular horse had the same triangular marking behind its right knee as Sean's own stallion. On seeing it, he was convinced that Robbie's Foley was a direct descendant of Celtic Star. All of his energies, his concentration, were now directed toward the purchase of the gray stallion. He had refused her money, even though she again tried to explain that all of the Gavin wealth originally came from him. Instead, he had placed a telephone call to Danny, of all people. Now, Saturday, Sean was meeting her best friend, and Chris wasn't invited. It didn't matter that she had to go over her notes on Lee Sanders for Monday's show. Try as she might, Chris couldn't concentrate on anything but Sean and Danny. What the hell were they up to? Okay, so I forgot to mention, Chris does have money. She has generational wealth. And so she's trying to give Sean money. She's like, "I'll pay for stuff." And she's like, "It's technically your money. You are my great great uncle. And he doesn't want to take her money. He wants to be his own man. And he remembers Danny. He's going to give Danny a call. Chris gets a taste of her own medicine because now Sean is out doing business and telling her, I'll come home when I come home. Don't worry about it. And she's not enjoying it, but you love to see it. And she's very lonely. But guess what Sean's job is? He's a model. He took on Danny's offer, and she's going to, I think, be his agent or his manager. And y'all, she gets him a $950,000 contract. And this man's from the 1800s, so he thinks that he is now a king. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to buy so many horses. But he's off modeling a shit ton. And Chris is like, I don't like this. There's an awkward dinner with Danny. And they kind of have this interaction. I don't think Danny's around, but hold on. I'm very happy here, Christine. Here in your home with you. I think you know that, he began. But there's a part of me that stayed in 1871. A part that says living here with you isn't right. I may have nothing to offer. He looked intensely into her eyes. I don't even know if I'm still married. If I am, what have I made you? My God, what does that make me? She dropped the papers onto the floor. Sean, you can't be serious about this. You're not married. Even if you had stayed in the past, you couldn't make that claim. What you had with Christina wasn't even close to marriage. It wasn't real. It was entered under false pretenses. It's invalid. It always was. She was near tears as she murmured, Christina's gone. She's out of your life, and She couldn't continue. She couldn't make herself that vulnerable again. He traced her mouth with his finger and wiped away the tear that slid down her cheek. And you're here, just as you've been since the moment you've entered my life. You've been there for me, even at Riviana, my Riviana. You were there for whoever needed you. He held her face between his hands with such gentleness, and the gesture was one of adoration. Well, I may not deserve you, but by God help me, Christine, I do love you. Her eyes widened with surprise. You love me? You doubted it? I didn't know. You should have known, just as I know that you love me. For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to believe that someone loves me. For me, not for any other reason. And I have nothing to offer you except that. Just my love. She was studying his face, wanting to memorize how he looked at this moment. You amaze me, Sean. What you offer is precious, and it's something I've never had before. I do love you. We're bonded, you and I. Don't you know that? He smiled as he took her in his arms. I do now. Come here to me. And he covered her face with adoring kisses. And it's so cute. They say, I love you, like in person. Like, I know he said it on air, but that didn't count. But, but what's going to happen? They're both so busy. He's a model now. He's like doing Armani. And she's like the next Oprah Winfrey. How are they going to make this work? And then there's Christina. Okay. Let's get on to this. Christina steals how much? $38,000 from her cocaine dealer boyfriend. And she puts on like regular clothes. Like she's adapted very quickly to the 1980s. And excitement started to build in her belly and snake upward to her heart. She'd never been north of Washington in her life. And here she was on a speeding train on her way to Philadelphia. On her way to her husband and that whore. So Christina's on her way to Philadelphia. And so let's cut to Sean and his modeling. And this is like kind of a fun moment. He's in the makeup chair. This is Sean from the 1800s, y'all. Makeup. Once more seated in the high wooden chair, Sean posed stiffly and listened to the conversation taking place around him. Words were punctuated by waves of long, thin brushes, and his eyes widened in horror as he listened. Carmen, what are you planning on going for him? The sea teal or the pink parfait? The teal, Chaz. Look at those eyes. My only dilemma is what to do with the cheeks. Look at those divine bones. I can't decide on the nutmeg, the toasted cinnamon, sage. Sean stared down at the man with the dark Latin eyes. What are you planning on doing? Serving me up for lunch? Carmen gave him an outrageously flirty look. Oh, how delicious. Sean's voice rose over all of the others. Danielle! Like, it's a very, if you can't imagine, like the Pierce Brosnan Sean, and he's in a makeup chair, and we've got like, Hank and Zarya from Birdcage and God knows who else just fussing over him doing makeup. Robin Williams, if you will, just like, oh my God, that's cinnamon. No, the nutmeg. Let's do pink parfait. And he's like, what is happening? And they just cower over him with makeup brushes and you just hear, Danielle. Very cute moment. Again, let me direct these. They have dinner at 7:45. I just thought that was interesting. That's a wild time to have dinner. 7:45? 7:45? Okay. And him, Sean, and I think Danny are having dinner at 7:45. Sean reached out and held her hand in his. He didn't care who saw or what anyone thought. I'm sorry I brought up the subject. I just wanted everyone to know how proud I am of you. Chris had swallowed several times to keep from crying. Taking a deep breath, she smiled and said to Roy Fuller, so when do I get to see my future husband's commercial? Danny dropped her fork onto her plate. What? Looking at Sean, Chris couldn't suppress a smile. She wondered how many women had received a proposal of marriage in a bathtub. We're going to be married, she softly whispered, as if the thought were too new to be spoken aloud. Now, I didn't omit that. They never wrote the proposal scene, so don't yell at me about we didn't get the bathtub proposal. Girl, I didn't get it either. But apparently they took a bath and he proposed to her and they're going to get married. Oh my God. Oh, I'm nervous because I know Christina's showing up. What the fuck is Christina going to do? Christina arrives in Philly. And remember, Chris is a celebrity. Kind of like how Chris showed up and everybody hated her at the Riviana. Christina shows up to the airport and the paparazzi and fans love her. And y'all, she is so fucking mean. Ooh, it's not cute diva behavior. She ain't no diva. Christina is worse than a diva. She's racist. Like, she calls like the black people like the N-word and tells them not to touch her. Like, ooh, it is not good. And I'm nervous because I'm like, oh my God, Chris worked so hard for her Oprah gig. Fuck. And that's happening, the airport, and Christina's being an absolute god-awful bitch. But she is learning more about Chris, like where she lives. And, you know, she gets in the taxi and she's like, take me home. And they just know where to take her because they know who she is. And she learns where her office is. And again, it's like single white female. You're just like, fuck. Everything's going so well. Fuck. Okay. And while evil Christina is ruining Chris's life, we cut to Chris and Sean are talking with her brother Jack. And Jack says that he doesn't want to keep the Riviana because the historical society is mad at him because he's wanting to turn it into a restaurant. And Sean says, sell it to me. I want it. I want to buy it. And Chris and him kind of have this moment of like, well, Chris is like, but we live in Philadelphia. I have a career in Philadelphia. I can't move to Richmond. And then Sean's like, but this is my home. I want to raise horses. This is where I want to be. And you're like, oh my God. Y'all like, whoop. Sorry, my mic moved. There's only this much left. What is going to happen? I can't. Remember I told y'all I was just SpongeBob crying and reabsorbing at the end of this novel. Her and Sean, there's this like B plot of her and Sean finally getting information on her family tree, aka Sean's family tree, kind of. And they meet this really old woman who remembers, not Elizabeth, but she remembers the family. And I don't know, I have to reread it again, but I think she's related to like Tisha and stuff. I think she's like related to the house staff. And they're trying to figure out what happened to Christina. Because like, what happened to Christina? And the woman says, Christina never, I don't know who you're talking about. She's like, it was just Elizabeth and Harry and then like my family and all that stuff. And she's like, there was never a Christina. And Sean's like, yes, there was. What happened to Christina O'Mara? And this woman's like, I don't know what the fuck y'all are talking about. And so again, they're like, where the fuck is Christina? And then we know Christina's in Philadelphia about to ruin everything. We cut to Christina in a hotel bathroom. She's cutting her hair. And she has a People magazine and she's copying the clothes that Chris is wearing. She looks identical to Chris. Y'all, Oh, this is going to be bad. Oh, fuck. She looks identical to Chris. She goes to Chris's office. Racist again. Awful towards the staff. Just don't touch me. Don't fucking look at me. You. And she goes to her office. And everybody's like, oh my God, I guess this new Philly Live went to Chris's head. She's now a diva. She's a bitch. And you're sitting there screaming through the glass like, no. Chris goes to her office the next morning, and there's a sheet of paper on her desk that says, quote, your time is coming, slut. And she's like, who the fuck was in my office? And everybody's like, girl, you were. And they're like, kind of like, are you okay? You came to work last night and you were a bitch. And she's like, what are you talking about? And her boss is like, look, if this is your attitude, you cannot have this segment. We can't have half of Philly hating you. And Chris is like, what is going on? I didn't come to work. I was with Sean. We were talking to my brother. We bought the Riviana. Like, what is happening? Everything is coming apart. And this is going to be a lot of cutting with Christina and then back to Chris. So Chris is freaking out at work because her entire career rides on this Philly Live, and everybody's kind of like, I don't know. She's being mean to fans. Like, she's kind of taking this like in a diva way. And she's like, I didn't do anything. I swear. And she's almost, I think, anyways. And Christina, because she's clever, she finds the rivaling news company and she meets with a producer. And long story short, she has sex with him and he films it. Okay, y'all, I have to put the book down. Evil Christina goes to the neighboring, like, it's kind of like 13 going on 30, where it's like the rivaling company. And she goes to the rivaling production company, sleeps with a producer. He films it because he's been accused of rape too many times. And she's like, great, now I have evidence. And she gets copies of the VHS and mails them to all of the news stations in Philadelphia. I want to scream in a pillow right now. Christina mails a sex tape of apparently Chris fucking the rival company and mails it to everyone. Y'all, this got so bad so fast. Obviously, Chris is fucking fired because she fucked the producer of the rival. I can't say it enough. I know you're like, we get it, Montana. But like, when I read this, I was like, what? What? Sex tapes weren't like a thing in the 80s. What? Oh my God. And obviously Chris is going insane. She's like, I have no idea what y'all are talking about. What is happening? What? And no one is telling her that it's a sex tape. They're just saying she broke a morality clause in her contract. And she's like, I didn't do anything. She thinks it's because she did undercover stuff for a drug case. Like, she's been working with undercover cops to cover a big drug bust in Philadelphia. She thinks it's that. And she's like, I swear you can talk to them and all this. And they're just like, no, we don't want to talk to them. And it's this miscommunication. And meanwhile, you're reading it screaming. And then, okay, she goes home. Her life is ruined. She has no job. She is hated in all of Philadelphia. She doesn't know why, which is even more infuriating. And Sean's just trying to pick the pieces. He's like, what could have happened? And Sean's kind of like, they said she looked like they said that this part like was you. And he was like, do you think? And Chris is like, no. Could it? And Sean has an inkling. He doesn't say it, but he's like, I think this is Christina. I think this is Christina. He goes to meet with her boss, Chris's boss, because he wants to tell him, like, look, I've got this crazy ex-wife that looks just like Chris. Like, he goes to meet the boss. He leaves. It's thunder. It's lightning. Okay. Again, it's thunder and lightning. It always is. As he leaves, Chris is in her bedroom sobbing. Her life is fucking ruined. Who shows up? But Christine, looking just like her, holding a gun. And she tells her, you took my life. back in the Riviana. I'm going to take yours. I'm going to take Sean back and ruin his life because he deserves it for fucking you little slut. And she makes Chris switch clothes with her so that she's wearing like Chris's nightgown and stuff. And Chris is wearing like the 80's business suit. And it's insane because Thunder Lightning, single white female movie, like identical. There's a gun. And Chris kind of gets Christine to falter by bringing up Judson because she remembers the portrait. She has the portrait. And she pulls it out. And Christine, evil Christine is like, what is that? And she goes, oh, this portrait? Do you know where it's from? I've been real curious as to where it's from. And Christina has a fucking breakdown because she was like, Judson painted that. That's the love of my life. And she remembers Judson. This whole time she's been so hell-bent on rage and revenge, she forgot the love of her life and the life that they were supposed to lead. She did love Judson. He painted that portrait of her. And so she falters, and that's when Chris grabs the gun. And now, okay, you have Chris holding the gun in the modern clothes and Christina in the nightgown crying. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And of course, Sean shows up and Christina, like a goddamn whip, goes, get her, Sean. She's going to kill me. Christina's back. Oh my God. And the thunder and lightning smashes. And he grabs, who does he grab? He grabs Chris. She drops the gun. And Christina disappears through the lightning strike. We're not done. Don't think we're done. We're not done, y'all. But what the fuck? What? Oh my gosh. And y'all, her boss saw the whole thing. He knows there were two. He's doing the Spider-Man thing. There were two. What? He's like, oh my God, where did she go? She escaped. We have to call somebody. And Chris and Sean know. They're just like, no, she's gone. She's gone. I promise she's gone. And they hold each other and Chris is crying and Sean's crying and everybody's like, what the fuck? Y'all, Jesus Christ. And this isn't even the end. Okay. We're almost to the end. Long story short, Chris does get her job back because there's some little tech guy that like really enjoy, like he loves Chris, and he's like, I know that's not Chris. Chris would never talk to someone like that. And he reviews hours of footage from the newsroom, and he sees Chris getting ready to go on live, and then he sees Christina dropping off the videotapes, and they're at the same exact time. And he's like, son of a bitch, there's two of them. And so with that, plus her boss obviously being like, oh my God, there's two, she gets her job back. But it's not good because she's upset because she's like, rumors and gossip run through entertainment. Despite me having my job back, people are still going to think that I slept with that producer and I was mean to those people. You know how gossip is. And so she's not super relieved. Her reputation is ruined in Philly. However, through that, she comes home. Her and Sean find out. They finally get information on Christine O'Mara, and they find out she died in an insane asylum in the 1800s. And Chris obviously realizes that's her family's whole lore is the women in their family are insane. And that's why her great-great-grandmother and her mother and all of them were so afraid that the next generation was going to be fucking crazy. And so Chris is kind of having a fucking... she's been through a lot, y'all. Chris has been through a lot. An insane asylum? She died in an insane asylum? Christine, stop it. She wasn't in her right mind before any of this took place. Before you came to the Riviana, she was disturbed. You have nothing to do with what took place. Nothing to do. My God, that woman was related to me. My aunt. Fighting for her control, she wrapped her arms about her waist and paced back and forth in front of the dresser. All my life, I've been fighting this rumor of insanity in my family. Jack and I used to make jokes about it, about the old ladies and their hysterics. God, no wonder my mom watched me and her mother watched her. Beth was frightened that her sister's madness would be passed down, and she started it all with her own daughter. She stopped and stared at him. I'm part of all of this. Christine, you're distraught. You've had a good reason, but you must stop this. Christina died in an insane asylum. She was insane. You're not. No one else in your family has ever been afflicted. Listen to me. You need to get away from here. I'm leaving for Virginia within the hour. I have a ticket for you. Come with me. She shook her head. You go. I can't. I have too much to think about. I need to be alone. No, you don't. Don't do this, Christine. Why are you pushing me away? She tried to break free, but his grip tightened. She panicked and shouted, Because I can't be responsible for your happiness any longer. I don't even know how to make myself happy, let alone you. I can't take it anymore. She suddenly went limp, and he released her as she sank to the edge of her bed. She sat there, her chin resting on her chest, staring at the floor, a mere shell of her former self. You want too much, Sean, when my whole life is falling apart. I never asked you to be responsible for my happiness. I realized early on when I came to this time that in the end, I'd have to make the adjustment alone. That no matter what you did, I'd have to somehow find my own way. His voice almost cracked. The only thing I ever asked of you was that you love me. He packed and left, swiftly and without further discussion. Chris wanted to call him back, to ask him to wait, but she felt paralyzed. She kept silent, and so she spent the remainder of the afternoon listening to the terrible echoing silence in that empty house. Sean is in Virginia. He's in the Riviera. That's where his home is. That's where he chose to be. He's got his horses. He's got his modeling contract. He even has a cologne now called Thoroughbred, which I can't imagine what that smells like. Real quick, just a side tangent. My favorite smell is a sweaty horse. Fun fact. Anyways, Chris and Danny go to get dinner, lunch, doesn't matter. They go to get Chinese food. And this is her best friend. Danny's like, are you still going to marry him? Like, what's going to happen? And Chris is like, I can't leave my job. I can't leave everything I've worked for here. Everything's in Philadelphia. I can't leave just for some guy I've known for a short amount of time. And it's just, that talk that the friends have. It all came back to that question. He wants to live at the Riviera, she whispered. How can I do that? I have a job. Great job, Danny mocked. One minor affair with Harry Wilson and the mafia and you're out on the street. Chris laughed. It felt good to laugh, but still, the dilemma. Are you suggesting I give up my career and follow him to Virginia? Danny shrugged her elegant shoulders. I'm suggesting you think what you really want. Do you love him? Yes. Will he come back? And if he does, will he be happy in Philadelphia? No and no. She knew Sean's heart was in the Riviera. Could you be happy in Virginia? Blinking rapidly, Chris seemed to mull over the question. This could set back women's liberation 10 years. Give it all up. Follow your man. You're not getting it, Danny insisted. If we're truly liberated, doesn't that mean freedom of choice? And without guilt as long as we're happy? Chris gazed at her fondly. They'd shared so much together, growing up. Had they finally done it? Grown up? Sniffling back her tears, she held out her hand and whispered, We'd have to promise. Once a month. More if we can. Alternating homes, frequent flyer programs. It's the only way I could stand. Are you saying you're going to Virginia? Chris let a tear roll down her cheek. I'm saying I love you, and I'm going to miss you terribly. Let's go to Sean. Sean is at the house. There's rows of boxes. He's unpacking. He never realized the house could be that lonely. At least 10 times he'd reached for the telephone intending to call Chris. But he hadn't. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps he'd expected too much of her. Maybe he was wrong to think that she wanted the Riviera as much as he did. The only thing he was certain of was he would give it up if she just asked. Without her, it meant nothing. Just a big lonely house. The only certainty that was he wanted her anywhere. All right, y'all. I'm going to read y'all the last little paragraph of this chapter. But hold on, because we have 2 epilogues and a quote. Y'all, get ready. She stepped out of the cab and looked up at the house. Riviana. She wasn't sure what she'd expected. Perhaps to feel the presence of another woman, another's claim to the plantation. What she felt was history and love. For centuries, members of her family had been born here. And now, from Jack and Elaine, Sean had claimed that heritage. There was no other presence. Only love. He opened the massive front door, and Chris knew in an instant she'd made the right decision. Sean O'Mara was everything right about Riviana. He belonged in this home. You came, he said, as the cab disappeared down the stone drive. He kept staring at her as he moved closer. She smiled, suddenly shy. I thought I'd come and check on my wedding present. When he took her in his arms, she whispered, How's the plumbing? He grinned down at her. I never asked. She looked at his face, the slight cleft in his chin, the black shining hair, the desire in his eyes. See, you do still need me. His lips brushed hers in an astonishingly sweet caress. Always, lass. Welcome home. I want to cry. I was sobbing. I was crying. From her doing the King Trident to her friend of I'm gonna miss her, to her saying, oh, you didn't call the plumber? You need me? And he says, welcome home. Oh, fuck. Jesus Christ. All right, let's get through these epilogues and then we can cry. The first epilogue is 1871. It was madness. Beth's mind refused to accept what her eyes were seeing. It couldn't be. She was being punished for eavesdropping, yet she clung to the study door, unable to drag her eyes away from the incredible sight. There were 2 of them, 2 sisters. They were arguing, the lightning, Sean and Judson. Then only Judson remained. She prayed as Judson yelled out in fright and ran past her out into the storm. Where had they gone? The 2 women, one her sister, the other, and yet only one remained. The 2 women, one her sister, the other, both of them reappeared for an instant, struggling, yet this time they were dressed differently. This time one was in a white robe, clutching a portrait in one hand and fighting the other who was dressed in a scandalously short gown. Immediately, Beth remembered the crazy talk that she'd had with Christina, the one she thought was Christina. The woman had said something about the future, about a great-great-grandchild. Beth knew one of these women's belonged to her. One of them was her own future. Terrified that one would destroy the other, and her along with them, she called out, Christina! Never had she seen such brightness. Never would she be able to describe what took place next. In an instant, too short a span of time to measure, there was only one woman left. One sister. Clutching the portrait to her chest, the vision in the white robe threw back her head and screamed out in rage. Never would Beth forget the sound, nor the fear that raced through her young body. In that moment, she vowed to protect her own, to be watchful of her children so this curse would never be revealed. She would safeguard all future generations and keep this horror a secret forever. And in that moment, Beth sorrowfully left her childhood behind and became the new mistress of the Riviana. Oh my God. Y'all. Let's get the second epilogue and we'll discuss. We're in Richmond, 1989. Aren't you the thoroughbred man? The young nurse blushed as she handed Sean the green uniform that would admit him to the delivery room. Sean nodded, quickly reaching for the paper clothes and putting them on. Where's my wife? He asked, more nervous than he dared to admit. What if something went wrong? Hadn't he seen hundreds of mares with difficult deliveries? What if... Your wife is in delivery room 3, Mr. Gavin. Mr. O'Mara, he corrected as he held the door open for her. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, because of the talk show and everything. Sean couldn't help smiling. My wife uses her maiden name and just her profession. Well, you ought to hear the buzzing on this floor. Even the newspaper called after your wife was admitted. Imagine the host of Richmond Mornings here. Sean wished the girl would walk faster. My wife will be very happy to know you watch, he muttered as he approached the huge door. Watch? I have to tape it when I work days, but I never miss it. That's wonderful. Now, where do you go from here? Why was she so calm? His wife was having a baby. What kind of nurse was she? This way, delivery room 3. Straining with the pain of a contraction, Chris glared at him. When it was over, she gasped for breath and muttered, Where were you? You're supposed to be my coach. The nurse was talking about your show, and Did she like it? Chris interrupted in a hoarse voice, letting out a moan as another contraction started to build. Seeing Chris in such agony, his entire body began to perspire. Soon he was as drenched as his wife. When the contraction eased, Chris panted, Did she like it? She demanded a second time. Yes, Sean insisted, wondering why he was more nervous now with Christine. I showed them, didn't I? Just because we're below the Mason-Dixon line doesn't mean we don't have opinions. You can produce a successful show, even if you don't originate from the Midwest or East Coast. And oh God, Sean, I don't think I can do this. You can do this, lass. You can. And Christina gives birth, and it's hilarious because Sean thinks it's a son, and the doctor goes, that's the umbilical cord, Mr. O'Mara. And he goes, oh, it's a girl, Christine. We have a daughter. A daughter. Chris blinked several times. She'd been so sure. And the nursery was even blue and white. Shocked, she watched as they separated this tiny human who had been growing inside of her for almost a year. And they have this sweet little moment. Thank you, lass. Thank you for our daughter. When they asked for a name, Chris and Sean looked at each other. What do? We never settled on a girl's name. Chris could feel the tightening of her throat, the acrid burning of unshed tears as she gazed down at her daughter. Now she knew. It was all there for the careful eye to see. We'll call her Elizabeth, she said in a hushed voice. My Beth. Hold on, y'all. Don't cry. The afterword is, quote, Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that's the stuff life is made of. Benjamin Franklin, Poor Richard's Almanac. Oh my God! This book was amazing. I have no notes whatsoever. This book is fucking great. Oh my God, y'all have to read it. Like, that's the recap. Imagine if you read it. Not a page wasted, not a filler. I highly recommend this book. We've got to read more Constance O'Day Flannery. We got to add her with the Beverly Jenkins. We got to add her with the Penelope Neary. This book, again, no notes. It's absolute perfection. It's absolute perfection, even with my stuffed up nose from allergies. I, again, was just sobbing reading this. Like, it was very much Marge Simpson with Lisa. I was like crying, and my husband's like, was one of the characters in your book going through troubled times? And it's like, yeah. Like, all right, let's just go over real quick. The lasting thing of her, again, doing the King Trident Sebastian moment with her friend, of she's, just like, we have to promise to write. And her friend's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm going to miss you so much. And you're like, to those asking what I'm saying about King Trident, in The Little Mermaid, Sebastian says something, and as she's like saying goodbye to Eric, and King Trident says, like, what does he say? Like, oh, it's gonna hurt so much. And Sebastian's like, what? And he's like, how much I'm gonna miss her. And he turns her human. It was very that moment for me. I was like, ah! Okay. And then she shows up to the Riviera, and Sean says, welcome home. And then Elizabeth realizes, like, Christina's gone mad, and it's her family and this bullshit. And then they have a daughter, and they name her Beth. Oh my God. I hope I'm not screaming in y'all's ear this whole time. I just want to cry. Okay. This book is amazing. Please comment below. Any comment. It's perfection. It's perfect. Perfection. Comment below anything to add. I don't know. Just comment a bunch of crying, sobbing emojis, because that's what we feel like. All right. The next book. What is the next book? So I went and bought a few more books. And I'm very excited because I'll talk about next month's book, but real quick. So y'all know the Sea Treasure drama, of which it still hasn't come in. It says it's going to come in like the last week of April. We're getting that Sea Treasure. I paid $75 for that. I know, but we had to have it because for those who are unaware, the Sea Treasure drama is there was a mermaid romance novel, which is extremely rare. I'm sure it was written during the Splash Little Mermaid era. And it was listed as like what? Like we thought like it was $70 something. No, it was like 90 or something. And we were like, oh my God, that's crazy. And y'all were like, Montana, don't you dare buy that. And I guess I like to think they got wind of this channel. I highly doubt it, but maybe. And it jacked up to $500. $500 in Trump's economy? Are you insane? And so an amazing viewer, comment below, like, and I'll give you the credit. I don't know if you want to be like shouted out. Sorry. I didn't get your consent before filming this. But an amazing viewer, like y'all scouted out again. The level $7 is called Paperback Patrol because y'all were paperback patrolling. Y'all scoured the internet and y'all found that like a copy that was like the cheapest, which was I think $65, and with shipping it was $75. And we bought it for principal. You're not gonna hold Sea Treasure for $500. You insane scalper. Like scalping even in the romance novels. That's my fear if this pops off and this becomes like a real popular format and other YouTubers do it. Oh my God, get the romance novels while you can, y'all, because they're going to go up. We're going to make this a problem. But anyways, we got Sea Treasure because I want to do Mermaid Summer. And y'all, I got a merman novel and I'm really excited to read it. We're going to have Mermaid Summer. We're going to do The Merman. This is called Soul Song by Marjorie M. Liu. We're going to do this in June, Pride Month. Ew. This is for the gays and the girls. And then July, we're going to do Sea Treasure. I'm very excited for those. But that's just the summer. We've still got another month. Now for May, I wanted to do this one. This is a fairy tale romance. The Mirrors of the Magic. Oops, can you see that? It's a step back. We're getting into the Outlander kind of vibe. We're getting Celtic, Scottish. That was a terrible Scottish accent. Let's read the back here. Mirror, mirror, tell me do. Who's the man who will love me true? Sensible Julia Addison never believed in fairy tales, nor did she think she'd ever stumble from the modern world and into an enchanted wood. Yet here she was in the Highland forest, held captive by 7 lords and their quick-tempered chief. Hardened by years of war with rival clans, Doric McStrown acted more like Grumpy than Prince Charming. Still, Julia was convinced that behind the dark-haired Scotman's gruff demeanor beat the heart of a kind and gentle lover. But in a land full of cunning clansmen, furious feuds, and poisonous potions, she can only wonder if her kiss had magic enough to waken Doric to sweet ecstasy. Fairy tale romance, kind of, loosely. I don't know. Are there fairies in this? We'll see. But very popular genre. So let's see how it was done in when was this made? 96. Oh, and I know this soul song looks modern. Real quick. I know this soul song looks modern. But it was made in 2007. And if you do the math, that was over almost 20 years ago. Like 2007, that was almost 20 years ago. I told my husband that. I think my husband graduated, 2000s, high school, 2007. Yeah, 2007 or 2008. And I told him that because he was like, oh, that looks more modern. You know, you need to stick to the vintage. And I said, well, that was almost 20 years ago. And he was like, I've never slapped a woman in my life. Don't make me today. He was like, don't you do this to me. Don't you do this to me. So we're going to do a fairy tale romance in May. I'm very excited. We love fairies. And we're going to do Mermaid Summer. I don't have Sea Treasure, but hopefully old girl will show up. All right, y'all. I will see y'all hopefully on the Patreon. Oh, real quick, Patreon. Whoop. The movie I want to do with this, you heard me mention it, Single White Female. It's a great movie. It's from the 90s. Great movie about a doppelganger ruining another woman's life. I think it ties really into the stress we felt with Chris and Christina. So on the Patreon, we're going to be covering Single White Female. We're going to be doing steamy scenes from this novel as well as Desert Captive and Sunday Stories. I've been collecting some pretty fun articles. So I will hopefully see y'all all on the Patreon next week and the next and the next. If not, I will see y'all all in May to read the Mirror of the Magic. All right, go get your Kleenex. You're screaming in your car about this novel. I know. Love y'all. Stay safe.